Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We got a power show of interest with Grant Cameron here, in my opinion, one of the top researchers ever in ufology. Not you-apology, ufology. We're going to get Grant on here momentarily, but first we want to say hello to each and every one of you for hanging on out with us tonight, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, T-Bone with a silver, Necessary Dialogue with a bronze medal tonight. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because Grant Cameron says, I will not come on Spaced Out Radio unless I'm lubed up. So Mel is over at Grant's place right now, lubing him up as we speak. Mel, don't forget to give yourself a little shot as well. Kitty Cattywhack and Thunderhead, how you doing? Road Flare, K17 Odd, how you doing? Connie Waldrop, welcome to SOR Chat. And Magnus Verve Magnuson is here. So is Frankie B. and Trucker Andrew as well. Nice to have you all here. Let's scroll on down and say hello to Gear Jammers. Nice to have you here as we continue on with our roll call. Kathy Evans, nice to see you. And Bad Cop No Donuts is here. Bad Cop will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, how are you? Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a great day. And we're going to kick off your weekend well with Grant tonight. I know you love it when Grant is on. So sit back and enjoy, Mama Catherine. We love you. Moving on down, we have Terry Mills and Chris Irvin. How you doing? Nice to have you here. Mickey G, nice to see you as we scroll on down on our roll call. Up next, who do we have? It's Honest Content. Full Mount, how you doing? Nice to have you here as we scroll on down. And Kurt M, how you doing? Nice to see you. Moving on down, JSCO, nice to have you here. And Flubber Lane, good to see you. Sandy B, welcome to SOR Chat. How you doing? Hold on, Davey's got an itch right on the side of his nose there. That never feels any good. All right, scrolling on down, Goblin, nice to have you here. Thomas Rock, good to see you. Deanna Ann, looking lovely tonight. How are you? Remedic, how you doing? Welcome back. And Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Gory Tiger, what's happening? Bob Thorson is here. Bob Thorson will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Number 34 in your program tonight, starting in goal from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Last year, he had a 2.18 goals against, by the way. 2.18. Little Cam, how you doing, brother? Nice to have you here. J Truth, nice to see you. Fap Nuts, always a pleasure. Super Crazy, what's going on? Brent Andre Fleury, how's it going? Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. And holy cow, we're caught up already. Undead Jed, how are you? Yes, no, baby. What's happening? Lex Diaz, always a pleasure, my man. And I think StreamYard skipped on me here. Matthew Goodka, how you doing, buddy? Miss any? Did I miss any? I don't think so. I don't think I did. don't think so. I got to recheck. No, we're good. We're good. Hi, Pam Harris. How are you? And let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we're going to get deep into ufology. Ufology. The real ufology. We're going OG tonight with Grant Cameron here, and we're going to have a lot of fun with Grant talking about the UFO world right now. And before we get going, we are on our YouTube side, kicking off roll call, and we're pretty much caught up there. Hard to believe. We zoomed through that today. Super Chat is open on our YouTube side. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. If you're listening in on the podcast side, do us a favor. Hit subscribe, hit follow, hit the thumbs up, whatever buttons you have there. It helps us grow this each and every night. Scott Blight, how are you? Walter Kochabinski and Carrie Doyle, nice to see you. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and be proud of it. So go shopping at spacedoutradio.com today. Throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shh, be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods. We're together, my friends. Oh, the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Caribou Con. We want to see all of you up here next month for Caribou Con in the heart of British Columbia. British Columbia's only paranormal conference, September 18th through 20th. Get your tickets right now at cariboucon.com. We're having a great show of UFOs tonight. Grant Cameron is here, legendary ufologist from Winnipeg, hailing out of Vancouver, still a Jets fan. And we're going to see what he is up to in the UFO world. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller joins us for another creepy story. After that, extra small Lee Strauss will be here with the cryptid report, UFO report, the Q&A, whatever you want to call that segment. It's a damn good one, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's get right into it. Grant Cameron is one of the most respected UFO researchers, author, and lecturer whose involvement in the subject matter began in the 1970s after witnessing Charlie Red Star in the sky over Manitoba in where near Carmen, I believe, Carmen, Manitoba, around there. Okay. And that experience sparked a lifelong pursuit of answers surrounding UFOs, government secrecy, and the people and agencies connected to the phenomena. Through his years of research, Freedom of Information Act requests, historical documents, and interviews with insiders, Grant has examined how the governments have investigated and responded to UFO encounters. His work has earned him international recognition and made him one of the most prominent voices in UFO research today. Grant Cameron, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend, but even more special because the next time after this, when you and I talk, it will be right here at Caribou Con in beautiful 100 Mile House, British Columbia, and I'm excited to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, it'll be wonderful. Last one you had was wonderful, and BC is the place to come. That's why I always say that, God rested on the seventh day, and this is where he rested. So people should come and look at the mountains and the the forests, and it's an absolutely beautiful place up where you are there. And people should, if they're ever going to come to BC, this is the time you want to come when the conference is going on. And I'll be there, and you'll be there, and we'll have a great time. And then you probably know it with conferences. Anybody who hasn't been to a conference, that's usually where you meet people and the speakers, and you make friends and stuff like that. And otherwise, it's just sort of like names on Facebook and stuff like that. But when you actually meet the people, you find a lot of people really get into coming to conferences, because it's a different experience in terms of the people you meet, and you realize that Davey Scott and Grant Cameron are just ordinary people who just are interested in the subject. We're not bad guys or good guys or whatever. And so I hope to see a lot of people there. I'm bringing somebody from Winnipeg. Unfortunately, Vancouver doesn't seem to be coming forward to do anything, but somebody's coming in from Winnipeg, and then we're going to drive up together, and it'll be wonderful. And hopefully there's no fires up there from not cleaning the forest floor.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Are you excited to go Bigfoot hunting? Last time I took you there, we went up to Barkerville.
Yeah.
We went on Mandy the Haunted Doll in Quesnel, British Columbia, with David Weatherly and Ross Allison.
Yeah.
And, but are you excited to go look for Bigfoot?
Yeah, that's part of the mystery. It's the old idea that Ray Hernandez, his thing where, he saw the wheel, they took him up and said, you got Sasquatch, you got UFOs, you got all this other stuff, and it's all the same thing. Quit parsing it. So I had the one case I'm probably told you about, the one case I had that led me to believe there was a direct connection between UFOs and Sasquatch. And that was, I started in 75. So I was investigating the town and around the town, and half the people had seen it. So there's a lot of people to talk to. And one of the cases was a Sasquatch case. And so that was early on in my career. And it was a 9-foot window. The woman's kid had colic, 3:00 in the morning. She's in the kitchen, and this Bigfoot's looking in the window, and she freaks out, of course. And so they bring in a tracker, and then we find out the guy across the road, his dogs he thought they were going to choke themselves on the leash, trying to get off the leash to go after whatever it was. And there was a Aboriginal tracker who took me there. And the joke in Manitoba is there's more telephone poles than there are trees, so there's no place for them to hide. And there was this one little section of bush along a creek in behind this woman's house, and he took me up there, and he said he was 250 pounds, and the snow had melted and then frozen again. He could stand on the snow and not break through, but this thing had broken through. It, of course, broke the branches as it went into this bush area. See, the footprints went into the middle of the clearing and then disappeared. So that was in the same area, a couple of miles away from a spot where 32 horses had disappeared, PMU horses. So from then on, I always said, well, I guess they let the Sasquatch out to take a leak and, on a leash, and then put it back in the saucer or whatever. So because there's no way. It's like Manitoba is not only are there no trees, it's flat as a billiard table. And the joke in Manitoba is you can let your dog go and watch him run away for days because it's just so flat. So there would be no place for this thing to hide. And it was there definitely with all the witnesses there. And so that was my initiation into Sasquatch. And I'm extremely interested. Maybe I can ask you, what do you think? Do you think this has got are they solid flesh and blood, or are they a lot of people say they're, etheric, that they come into the physical, or what's your stand on that?
I think they're both.
Yeah.
I think they have flesh and blood like you and I, but
yeah.
I also believe that they have some sort of supernatural ability that they can do whatever they want to do. I'll give you an example, Grant, and I've been using this example a few times recently. When we were out at our place that we investigate, about a week ago, we had our trail cameras up there for 6 days.
Okay.
Facing our gifting site.
Yeah.
and we saw that things had moved at our gifting site.
Wow.
I have caught videos of all sorts of animals. I've
Yeah.
caught video, previously to that, I caught a video in the exact same spot where I had a lynx carrying a bunny rabbit that it caught right past my camera. Okay. Every blowing wind I got videos of. I'd usually end up between 70 and 150 videos in that time span.
Yeah.
Last week when we were there, we checked the cameras, 2 cameras facing the gifting site, and to make sure, like, we're crossing the camera stream. Okay.
Yeah.
Neither of them had anything on them except us coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Us leaving and us coming back. Now, how does that work? I don't know. Apparently, Sasquatch has been able to manipulate it. And when you're up here, I want you to talk to Lee Strauss and Jackie Harmon.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Jackie was just on our show, and her and Lee were at Mount Adams in Washington State, where they literally heard the Sasquatch opening up the trail cams and turning them off.
Wow.
And then that's when Jackie got groped by one in the tent.
Wow.
Like, it was on the outside of the tent, and they were sleeping in one of those floating tents.
Yeah.
Like a cot. And she felt the hand started her at her foot, and it made her way up her leg to her butt, to her back, to her arm, to her neck, to her head. Right? Scared the living daylights out of her.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That would scare me too.
So I'm wondering and here's the thing, a couple weeks prior to that on my trail cams, Grant, I camouflaged my one trail cam. I put about a 6-inch stick on top of it.
Yeah.
When I came back, that stick was still on top of it. But when I checked the trail camera, right after I left, it went nighttime, 2 pictures in the night. The first daytime picture, that stick is now in front of the camera. And then it was back on top when we got back. I don't get how it works. I really don't.
Yeah, that's big in ufology. I've written about that. I'm writing some more about that. Is the actually I just put up on Facebook and Twitter the quote by Jim Semivan talking about the fact the paranormal and the UFO. He said, it lies to you, it cajoles you, it teases you, but it'll never take you. It never allow you to take it home to meet the family. It will not allow you to sort of catch it on camera and stuff. Or John Alexander talking about Skinwalker Ranch, where he said not only did the phenomena know what we were doing, it knew what we were about to do, and it would always happen off camera. And that seems to be part of the phenomena, is that it's elusive. It always gives the skeptics a way out in terms of alternate explanations. And it's just there to, as I say, to make awe and curiosity, to make you wonder, like, how the heck did that happen? And you realize the world is much more magnificent than you thought it was, and much more complex than you think it was. And that they have these sort of abilities to play with you, the trickster effect, and they do all this kind of stuff. But it's very, very hard to get actual evidence that they've been around, forever. And nobody's ever come up with the absolute evidence, the same as nobody's ever, got the crop circle figured out, or the cattle mutilation. Nobody was ever arrested for that, even though some of the cattle mutilations they were talking about happened within feet of people standing there at Skinwalker Ranch. And minutes later, or I don't know if you saw the latest interview with Bob Bigelow, where he talks about communicating with the phenomena. And that's what he says. Skinwalker, they asked him, what's the bottom line on Skinwalker? He said, it's about communication and gaming. They like to play games, and they're communicating. And he talked about the balls and the jacks. Have you heard that story, where he said it was on the kitchen table, and his the only people in there were the 2 security guards who set it up. They set it up on the kitchen table, and then there's a sliding glass door right by the kitchen table. They went out, stood on on the patio for 30 seconds, came back in. The balls and the jacks were all in the same spot. There was like the ball in the middle and the jacks all in sort of a circle around it. And they went out, and this time they stayed out for 60 seconds. They came back in, and the balls and jacks were in a shoehorn or like a semicircle type thing with the ball in the middle, that they had moved it, and these guys were only feet away. And but that was the thing. They do this stuff where you don't catch them, but they definitely have been there, and they play around. They love that the trickster effect, where they're sort of like, you're never going to see reality. You're never going to see the bottom line of this thing. That's not what they're here for. They're here to, according to what is just to get you down the rabbit hole, and everybody starts talking about all the weird stuff, and more people talk about weird stuff, and it becomes acceptable. And the new generation of kids that come along won't be offended with ideas about Sasquatch or UFOs, and they'll just accept it, like most kids today would accept the fact that this is all for real. And or as Max Planck said, you don't win by convincing your opponent with evidence that they're wrong. You win when your opponent dies, one funeral at a time. The new generation is not offended with the idea.
Grant Cameron is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Old school ufology is what I titled this, because I think that's what you do. You are an old school ufologist. You're one of the most popular ufologists that has ever looked into this subject, Grant. You know, when you got started, you know, obviously there was no internet. You were doing everything by libraries, telephone calls, personal meetups. There was no Zoom or Skype or anything, you know, and there was only 3 channels, and 2 of them were CBC in Canada, one in English and one in French. That being said, you know, you look at today's ufology. What do you see the biggest difference in the research tactics between what you did getting started out and what we see today?
I don't know if it's that much different. It's definitely different in terms of the speed at which things happen. That you know, something will break, and within a couple hours, everybody sort of knows what's happened. And it comes down to this idea where people no longer read books. Like I do a lot of books still, but that's to just record my story. So that's the way I figure things out. That's where I learn, is by putting it all together in a book, and I have to look up this, look up that, add this, add that, and I learn new things. But if you look on the internet and say, you know, what's the attention span on the internet? It's now down to 8 seconds. And you'll see that if you see people scrolling on Facebook, it's like scroll, and then stop and read for 10 seconds, then scroll, and look for the next story. And it's moving so fast that that people are just sort of doing it for entertainment. And that's what we were told by Dr. Eric Walker, who I think is the highest level official anybody ever talked to. And what he had told us, he said, you know, you're just curious, admit it, you're just curious. And that's basically for 99% of people, and maybe even researchers, is they're curious, they want disclosure, and you ask them, what do you want? Well, I just want to know what's going on. And that's curiosity. And Walker said, why should we change the rules and regulations to satisfy your curiosity? And so that's what I see. But the bottom line in ufology, it still comes down to the 3 levels of discussion. There's people, there's things, and then there's ideas. And most people in ufology and in life itself are still at level 1. If you like, people will always complain about, you know, not so much anymore, but the idea that you're into UFOs or whatever. You'll go to a party and somebody will know you're into UFOs, and they'll come and say, what's about UFOs? And you start talking to them, and next thing you know, everybody else has gone to the other side of the room. But when you listen to those people in cocktail parties or birthday parties, what you see is they're at level number 1. They're talking about people who aren't in the room. You give me a story about something happened in your family, you know, some scandal in your family. So I've got something to gossip about when I get to the next cocktail party. And they're talking about people who aren't in the room. And I always used to think, when I listen to it, I go like, you think I got a problem? Like, can you just think of what you're talking about? You're just talking about nothing. You're just making conversation. You're not going anywhere. Or they'll talk about things. They'll talk about the Iraq War or politics or stuff like that. But when it comes to ideas, there are very few people who are actually into the ideas. what the heck's actually going on here. And that's why I think it's great for something like yours, where people are at level 1, and so you sort of make it entertaining. You give them something to listen to, and a lot of people listen to it on the way to work. They'll really won't take it seriously, but subconsciously they're being programmed, and the phenomena is moving up in terms of acceptability and stuff, especially since 2017. Because when I was for the guys the first 30 years, 40 years, nothing happened. I mean, it was just like you had a couple of sightings, everybody exchanged sightings, and we weren't getting anywhere. You couldn't get a congressman to talk to you, or a member of parliament to talk to you, or even answer your letter, anything like this. And now you have this sort of a world where everybody's got a piece, and you have a situation where you can go to somebody and say, in China or Africa or anywhere in the world, and say Area 51. Yeah, I know what that is. Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, I know what that is. UFOs. I know what that is. Near-death experience. I don't believe it, but I know what that is. The consciousness is rising. The idea, as to what's going on, is becoming more acceptable all the time. The fact that we probably aren't alone, and the aspect that I talked about with you, the Sasquatch, the part that interests me, is this idea that it's not as physical as people think it is. That you can actually see that the phenomena has this sort of not a spiritual side, but a sort of a non-physical side where they can change. And there's an example when I was at this event in Vancouver. I was speaking a couple of days ago. I met one girl there, and she had psychic things happening to her. She was picking up people's, auras and thoughts, and she didn't know what was going on. And then she said, I only had one physical experience. And she talked about the fact that she went into her bathroom and she was looking in the mirror, and suddenly her face started to swirl, and it swirled and swirled, and out of the mirror came this animal. It sounded like it was a tiger or something like that. And it growled at her, and she, of course, ran from the room. And that's this idea that things can walk in from another dimension or a higher level of vibration, become physical, and then go back to where they came from. And that's when you see those kind of stories. That was really weird before, but now it makes sense to me that you just have a phenomena that is at a higher level that can come in and do these kind of things. Or the story of Mike Cleland, if you've heard the story where he's taken on board the craft, and he comes in, he's out of body, he comes in through the craft, and these two grays are leading him down the hall, and they get to this point where there's a gray suit hanging on the hook. And he says, he said, I don't know how it happened, but once I went past that thing on the hook, he said, suddenly I looked at myself and I was a gray. And he looked at his hands, he looked at his feet, and he went, what the heck is going on? And he looked at these two grays, and he was no taller than they were. He was only 3 feet tall. And then he tells the rest of the story. These beings are telling him he's got to get going. He's got to write his books and all this kind of stuff. And then he volunteered for this. But when you see these kind of stories, you realize that we're up against something that is not as physical as we thought it was in 1975. When I first saw it, I immediately thought this is, being raised very religious, that, there's miracles in the Bible, but there's no miracles anymore. And when I saw Charlie Red Star the first time, flew in front of the car, I went, oh, there are miracles. It was like, my God. But it was still a physical phenomenon. I remember Stanton Friedman said, this whole thing about the 4,000 landing traces, that's the strongest UFO evidence. And everybody was looking for this physical evidence. And landing traces don't happen anymore. They haven't happened for decades. And so the UFOs are not landing. They're just sort of flying around, and the odd time they'll come down. But basically, it's changing into orbs now. Everybody's talking orbs rather than flying saucers with windows. So it has changed in that way, that it's become more the idea that this may be something beyond the physical. Whereas in 75, as I always describe, if you saw a UFO, you were crazy. If you saw 2 UFOs, nobody in the UFO community would talk to you. You're insane. Because it was a random event. It was just like this nuts and bolts thing where you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And now we know that experiencers have multiple encounters, and that this phenomena is not as physical as people think it is.
Grant Cameron is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. When we return, Is trying to get disclosure prior to 2017 the same as it is today? Is all of this smoke and mirrors, or is it managing magic? We'll find out. Legendary Grant Cameron when we return. All right, Grant, we're clear. Hi, Abstractical. Welcome to SOR chat. Jorge, we'll ask questions in hour 2, so I will get to it. I've got it marked. And Cowie, how you doing? Nice to see you. Mike Brown from Dark Poutine Podcast. If you haven't checked him out, he's one of the biggest in Canada. And not just that, but a great guy too, who likes a nice fresh pair of socks. Right there. Go check it on out. You got to forgive him. He's a little bit of a Canucks fan. So you got to go easy on him a little bit. Been a rough couple of years.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm on a sock kick right now. I tackled my sock hamper the other day, Grant.
Oh yeah.
I folded 122 pairs of socks.
Wow. That's what you get for Christmas every year. Is that how you got so many?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom started that. God rest her soul. My mom started that a number of years ago. And I remember, I think it was about 1995. She got us these socks, and they were orange in color. And my brother-in-law at the time, him and I were laughing. My sisters were laughing. Well, my mom got all pissed at us. Right? So the following Christmas, she didn't get us any socks. And we're like, Mom, where's the socks? Like, where's the socks?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you guys laughed at me and made fun of me giving you socks last year, so I didn't bother this year. We're like, what are you doing? Like, we rely on you for the socks, right? So never missed socks after that.
Well, orange would have fit right in there, Oiler fan there.
All right. Chief Von Beef, welcome to SOR chat. Jonathan Davies, I want to know how you doing, my friend. Nice to see you. It's been a long time since you've been in here. And Dave, I wonder what Grant is in the mood to talk about. Well, we'll get into that. You know, it's Grant fucking Cameron, man. We'll get into that. You know, I can say that because we're not on the radio right now.
Yeah.
Man's my hero. Hey, big shout out, guys. If you can, give a big thanks to all of our volunteer moderators, whether it's Mel WD40, whether it's Joe, whether it's Julie or T-Bone or Undead Jed or whoever it is. We got good people there. All right. They're the big reason why our chat room is as awesome as it is. There's no bullshit in there. So thank you guys for the great work that you do each and every night. Scoos, how you doing? Nice to see you. And yeah, I'm talked out now.
Yeah.
I'm talked out.
Yeah.
I wonder one of these days when I retire, Grant, when I retire from this show,
Wow.
I'm going to say, I'm just going to scream out, and we got Grant fucking Cameron on the air tonight. I might even do it at Caribou Con. I might do it.
You're retiring at Caribou Con?
No,
you got a few years to go.
Also, when I'm introducing you, I might just say, you know what? We got Grant fucking Cameron here, people.
Dolan will be upset.
Who cares? Who cares? Who cares who gets upset?
Yeah.
Who
Are you following the disclosure saga? I guess you are, right?
I'm so worn out with it right now, man. I am literally worn out with it. I want to get back to telling stories of people.
Level 1. Little stories. Yeah.
No, man.
Well, a lot of it is talking about people because, you know, in ufology, there's really no money. So you're either talking about other people or things, and that's your currency is you know, what you talk about. There's no money to be made. If we all were making, you know, $135,000 as a professor, we'd all be, you know, doing research papers and you know, not really talking to each other.
I'd prefer that. No offense. Little Mikey, how you doing? Mike Rivers, how are you? Don't worry, guys. We're still about 2 weeks away from the next tranche, the next mess of the tranches.
Did they release documents today? No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
They're slowing down.
We got about 30 seconds, Grant. Thank you to our lone super chatter, Lil Cam. Appreciate it. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Where's T-Bone tonight? Where's T-Bone? Where's Brother Bone? All right. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. There's nothing ugly there, people. You can wear our stuff out in public and actually be proud to wear it. Trust me, because most paranormal shirts are ugly. I've seen them. Go shop at ours. They're not ugly. Here we go.
You can wear it to the conference.
Here comes our second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. I'm jumping ahead here. I'm so excited. My name is Dave Scott. Grant Cameron is our guest tonight on the show. We're going to get into ufology 101 and old school OG ufology coming up momentarily. But first, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Grant Cameron is here, one of the greatest ufologists ever to walk the planet. This man has been there, done that, talked to important people, talked to politicians, presidents, vice presidents, and even the aliens themselves. Grant, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, I'm actually just talking to aliens now in Great Britain. So I have actually had some messages from aliens, and it was kind of interesting stuff. So I have had the experiences that you're talking about.
Going back in time, prior to 2017, when this new school of upology came out. Okay. I got to say it 3 times in order to get out of my mouth because I hate that word so much. But nonetheless, how was disclosure back then comparatively to how it is today? Are we seeing more smoke and mirrors? Was it the same, but just different fish in the sea, so to speak?
Well, it was the same rumor type stuff. Like 74, 75, there was a lot of stories going around about within a year they're going to disclose everything. There was the famous one in 76 when Carter was running for president, or I guess once he was elected, that there was going to be a major disclosure. This came out in U.S. News and World Report that there was going to be a major disclosure. And of course, nothing happened. So we've always been waiting for, we're like the people sitting on top of the mountain waiting for the world to end. It's always been that thing. It's disclosures next year. It's going to be coming. Now everybody's talking about 2027, and we're ready. And I always say seriously, almost like Walker said to us in the 1990s. When you get it all figured out, what are you going to do with it? And I always say, do you actually think that we're going to interact with these reptilians and mantids and grays and allow them to walk the streets of America? And that they got people working for free on the crafts, and that we're going to allow them to open factories and make cars for $1,000 that don't need gas and stuff. It's like people haven't thought the other end of the disclosure thing is what do people really want for disclosure? What do they? And most people would just say they just want to know. And that's what Walker said. You're just curious. That's the whole deal. And people really can't specify as to what they want the end result to be, because it's going to be very complex in terms of the fact that we're going to realize we aren't the top dogs, that somebody else is running the show. And then you can see that with your cam in the stuff in the forest, and with the UFO phenomena. is the more you look at it, the more you realize they're running the show, and that when they want to disclose, they're going to disclose, and that I don't think the aliens are going to disclose, or whoever they are, because that's not part of the deal. I think they're sending messages. They're trying to get us to straighten out our act or whatever, but it's not like they're here to give us some feed the poor people or that kind of stuff. That's what people think, or free energy. And I always say to people, well, energy's free. All energy. The sun doesn't charge you for energy. If you can build a hydroelectric dam in your backyard, you can have all the stuff you want. It's all free. But the same people that are running the electricity companies now will be running the UFO energy, if that is true, that there's this revolutionary type of energy. The same people that are on top are going to be on top then, and you're still going to be paying for it. So it's always been the same. What's happened is 2017 was absolutely a changing year. I never thought I'd see that because I'd sat there for 40 years. I sat there and nothing happened for 40 years. And we were just, it's like you get sightings and you exchange it. There was the scandal, and not scandal, but the MJ12 thing in the 1980s. That was a big controversy, that the government is leaking this kind of stuff. But basically nothing happened. And I wrote an article in 2009, which was called The 64 Reasons They Decided Not to Tell You the Truth. And it basically came down to this whole scenario. They're never going to admit they're working on UFOs. They're never going to admit they got bodies and crafts. They've got control of this thing. They're not going to do it. And then I'd list all the reasons why. And, it was the old idea that the stock market would melt down because everybody realized oil was not worth anything. And, that these beings were more powerful than us, and they didn't have a Jesus, and all these kind of scenarios that people would bring up. And then in 2017, suddenly the New York Times, either if the president stands up and says it's real, then everybody's going to sort of believe it, or if the New York Times stands up and says it's real. So that's what happened in 2017. The gray lady, the New York Times front page, top of the fold, said the government's working on UFOs, and I was as shocked as anybody. And what happened in 2017? All the things that I had warned about would happen in disclosure, nothing happened. Nobody jumped off a bridge. Nobody committed suicide. Nothing happened. It was just like everybody went, yeah, I knew that already. And it just because that's what basically it comes down to, is this thing of curiosity. So if the presidents would make an announcement today and say UFOs are real, they're among us. This was the statement that Bigelow, who was gave $14 million to Trump and the Republicans, got a meeting with Trump, and he said you should make this announcement just before we go on Air Force One and say we have UFOs are real, and there's beings and they're among us, and then walk on the plane so you don't have to answer questions. But that's really not going to solve anything, because people are just going to go, yeah, well, we knew that already, and go on, because basically the average person has to pay their bills. And you hear in Vancouver, houses are, $1, $2, $3 million. And everybody's working their butts off to pay their bills, take their kid to soccer or hockey practice and stuff like that. And it's not going to phase anybody. I don't think, even if they said we've got bodies and crafts, I don't think there's going to be a big reaction at all. Or when Trump announced that they're going to release UFO documents, the first week, there was 1 billion hits on the site or something like that. Everybody's trying to see these UFO documents. And then everybody realized that's the same crap they've been releasing for years. And tranche 2 is the same, 3, 4. And now nobody could care less. Nobody's even paying attention to it. And I think the same thing's going to happen with the cover up. It's just the next thing. And that's one of the reasons why I think that they don't want to release it, is because it's 1,000,001 questions. It's okay, this question. Okay, now answer this question. Now answer this question. And the question is never going to end. And if you don't have the answers, if you have all the answers, that's fine. But I'm thoroughly convinced they don't have all the answers. They basically may be in the dark about a lot of the stuff that's going on. Especially the mind stuff that we were talking about with the Sasquatches, where there's a lot of stuff there where it's very evident that no matter what kind of people you bring in, like DIA or Black Ops people or Special Forces people, they'll walk around these people like they're pylons. And so I don't think much is really going to change, except that people are going to be less curious about the fact that we aren't alone. And there's going to be a pile more young kids coming in and thinking they know everything, which is one of the things that really annoys me now. One of them came up now and said, "Oh, I wrote a couple of books on flying the craft," which is not true, and he doesn't believe it. He's been in the field for 3 years, and it's like these kids, they come in and they figure they've got it all figured out, and so there'll be another bunch of these kids coming in who are good with computers and doing chats and stuff like that and spreading stuff or whatever. But in terms of the phenomena, the more I look at it, the more I think this phenomena they're in charge, and it's going to be like the crop circles, or the cadmium relations. We're never going to figure it out. We're going to have ideas, and they just keep dropping breadcrumbs, and we get closer and closer to realizing that it's a very paranormal world. It's very weird. And even I may bring up a little bit of this when I do the lecture at Caribou Con, is this idea about how does the world actually work, where the idea that matter is not primary in the universe. And that's, even if you look up AI, they'll even say that the primary thing in the universe is fields. Everything's a field. Particles are actually fields. And so it's fields inside fields, and there is no physical thing, and there may not be any time and space and all this kind of stuff. And that's where I think Jim Semivan, the guy that ran covert ops for the CIA, said basically this idea that he was told by a high level official that it's indigestible, that people are reading it, half the people in the United States read it at a grade 6 level, and then you're going to drop this stuff on them, like there's no time and space and everything's happening at one time and stuff. And that's what the UFO thing, the more you look at it, or any of the paranormal phenomena, you realize that the quantum physics stuff is probably going to be right. And it's a very, very strange world that is not even comparable to what we think we see, that we are like in an illusion. We think we're seeing things, but then they come up and say there's no color, there's no red, there's no green. It's just electromagnetic spectrum and stuff like that. And people are you and I will handle it great and think it's exciting, but the average person, who's never thought about it, is just going to be it's going to be way over their heads. It's just going to make their heads spin.
Grant Cameron is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. But when you look at all the players now, Grant, they all seem to be tied together. It started off with all these fresh names coming in 2017. And, whether it was Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, or most people at that time outside of the real hardcore researchers had never heard of Jim Semivan or Hal Puthoff at that point, and they became household names if you're in the UFO world. And now you look at the way that has expanded to whistleblowers, the way it's expanded to government officials, or the way it's expanded everywhere. And yet you see all of these groups opening up, whether it's the Soul Foundation or other foundations or UAP disclosure groups. And if you look at their board of directors, it's all the same people.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is that?
Well, they've gained control. We always have the Rodney Dangerfield effect in ufology, that we're always embarrassed that we're the lowest science possible, and not even a science. And so everybody's always looking up to PhDs. Whereas I had the experience of being at the University of Manitoba for 40 years. And I worked at the bar at the Faculty Club Lounge, and I dealt with these people when they were drinking. And deans and presidents and all these kind of things, full professors and stuff like that, and they were just like anybody else on the street. And so I was never intimidated by them, and we used to make jokes about them. Like you go into university and you get a bachelor's degree, and then you really don't want to work yet, so you go, I got to go in the workforce, and well, if I get a master's degree, then I'll be better off. I'll get paid more. Then you get a master's degree, and nobody will hire you because you got no experience. And then, well, what the hell we do now? We're not got a master's degree. What are we going to do? Well, let's get a PhD. Then we'll teach it. And so you get all these people with PhDs, and we used to call it piled higher and deeper. And we knew a lot of people at university had 2 PhDs, and they didn't have jobs. They were just like professional students. And that's what's the problem in the UFO community, is that people are always looking up to other people. So if you're, a professor at Harvard and you're into astronomy and asteroids and stuff like that, you get control of this and somebody's looking up to you because you're an astronomer. Well, what the hell's an astronomer know about UFOs? He knows nothing. Same as a plant scientist knows nothing. There are no professors, there are no PhDs know anything about UFOs. That you got to go to the people on the street. But if it's you or I, we don't have a PhD. We're not big money people or anything like that. So it's totally been run by these people who are these academics who are trying to turn it into sort of a field where they're going to get grants and they can study this full time. And the average researcher who's doing the work, they really don't care about it. It always comes down to this thing that everybody's embarrassed to be in the field. So you're always looking up to a government official. Ronald Reagan had a UFO sighting, so it's okay to have a UFO sighting, or some high level official, some general or something like that. And it doesn't matter what they say. You can put a PhD or some high level government official to lecture at a conference. He doesn't know what he's talking about, but everybody says, "Oh, he's the greatest guy. Look, he's because it gives us a higher standing if we have somebody in our field that's doing UFOs." So that's I think the problem is that it's moved into the academics sort of taking over and saying everybody else stay out. Like Sol Foundation has never talked to me, and I'm sure a lot of researchers they don't talk to because they're not the academics, and academics have got they've got an ego. They figure they're special from everybody else. But I still remember the guy that trained me to be a bartender at the Faculty Club Lounge was a Chinese guy, and he had 2 PhD degrees, and he was going to go work for the U.S. military working on submarine noise on the propeller. And he said, "Grant, here's your first lesson. Don't let these guys intimidate you, these professors and stuff like that. Just remember, when they've had one too many beers, they're just like any other drunk on the street." And that's the whole thing, is that people are wowed by, as I told you, at this event in Vancouver is almost like a sort of a cult meeting where people were paying big money just to get a picture with the person who was at the top, and sort of like you want to link yourself up with that person because you feel bad about being a UFO researcher. And so you look into these high level people and they know nothing more than anybody else. In fact, the people on the street, the people who've been working at it for years, like you and I, know more than they probably will ever know. They're just in their little cubicle, and everybody's looking for grants, everybody's looking for patents. So you have situations where all these people not gang up, but they work together, and they're working on projects, and everybody's looking for that big money that'll come with some sort of technology, and they're not going to share it with you and I. They want you to send the pieces of metal to them, stuff, so they can analyze it. But when it comes to talking to you, you're just not at their level, according to them.
Grant Cameron is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got 6.5 minutes before we go to break at the top of the hour. Grant, just your thoughts then. When we see these guys talk, the whistleblowers, the government officials, they're giving these grandiose stories of "you saw what I saw." It really is reminds me of Hulk Hogan cutting a WWE promo. "Let me tell you something, brother." You know what I'm saying? I mean, UFOs are real, brother. Right? I mean, we get that kind of stuff, Grant, going on. And yet when it comes to the evidence that they're showing, it's complete opposite. It's like being forced to watch The View. You're just getting nothing out of it. Right? I mean, how do you take what they're doing, what they're saying, and compare it to what they are presenting? Because it's polar opposite right now. And I think the strongest evidence that they've given, and nobody has called them out on it, is they've actually admitted that NASA has been lying over the years.
Yeah. Well, the whistleblowers, I have trouble. I can maybe talk about the whistleblowers. I've always had trouble with the whistleblowers because I worked on government documents, and I actually had my 15 seconds of fame. I talked to Dick Cheney, who they're now saying was the main guy that ran this 27-member group that controls the whole thing or whatever. And I got my 15 seconds of fame asking him about whether he'd been briefed on the subject and stuff like that. But the whistleblowers I always have trouble with because, I mean, it's like if you had a company, Dave, and you had some revolutionary thing you were working on, and you're trying to get it into development and you're doing research or whatever. And then suddenly you saw somebody that worked for you on TV telling everybody what you're doing. I mean, you'd want the guy thrown in jail. You'd want him shot. And so to me, it's like when the whistleblowers come, always the first thing I think is, why is this guy not in jail? I mean, this is the highest classified secret in the United States. How do you become a whistleblower? How do you say, oh, I've decided that I'm a whistleblower. I disagree with what the government's doing. Therefore, I'm going to go tell everybody what's going on. That's like the people in World War II who got hung for giving the secret to the Russians for the atomic bomb. They said the same thing. Oh, I don't agree with this policy. I think I'm going to get the secret and give it to the Russians. Everybody, you simply cannot walk out of a classified program, and you cannot start talking about what's going on inside the classified program. They have to throw them in jail. And the fact that they're not in jail always makes me suspicious. Even like the Lou Elizondo thing, that I keep reminding people that Lou Elizondo retired in the morning, and he was being interviewed by the New York Times in the afternoon. That, you start to wonder, is this a setup? Are these guys, doing gradual disclosure? Or it just defies logic that these guys are not in jail, that they can just sort of walk around, and they talk about threats and stuff like that. But you have that all over the place. If you do that in a company, you're going to have the same thing. There was a story about Boeing, about one person got killed in Boeing for saying that 25% of the oxygen masks don't work on the Boeing 737-800 and stuff like that. And so it's a strange world where these guys are coming forward and telling these elaborate stories. Even this thing with the whole Skywatcher thing. So I wrote the book on flying the craft, and 2 years and 3 months later, suddenly they came forward and said, oh, it's called psionics, and we're talking to crafts, and we're bringing crafts down, and crafts are conscious. And I'm going, did they read my book? Did they send these guys out and now Skywatcher's gone? So I'm asking questions now. I said, where did Skywatcher go? Did they get swallowed up by the military, or were they in the military all along?
I think they got eaten up, and those guys wanted to go back and get the contract.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I think happened. And you know what? It's funny though how people gave such credibility to Skywatcher. No offense to the people involved; they're brilliant people. I think we can agree on that. But how Skywatcher, all they did was name change everything that we know.
Exactly.
That way they could claim it as their own.
Yeah.
Everybody called it summoning or CE5. They had to call it psionics.
Yeah. Well, they did the same. They did the same thing with UFOs. They used to be flying saucers and flying discs, and then Ruppelt in 1952 changed the name to UFO because it's more sort of, you can talk about it without identifying. And then they changed it to UAP, and it's always the government that keeps changing, and it sounds more scientific. It sounds cooler than saying you're doing a CE5 or something like that. And so that made me immediately suspicious when they changed the name to psionics. It's like, is the military setting this thing up, and did they change the word? Because you had the whole thing in 2016. They changed the word from UFO to UAP.
But isn't that about trying to control a narrative, Grant?
Yeah.
If you can control the terms, because it's funny. I'm going to use Richard Dolan as an example here. The minute the To the Stars Academy came out with the whole UAP garbage, that's when he was all UAP this, UAP that, UAP. And it's like, Richard, stick to your guns here. You're one of the best we got. Okay, stick to your guns. Don't follow the line. Follow your research of what got you here. And now he seems to be back to saying UFO, which is great, is great, but I don't say that to insult Richard, but I'm saying that a lot of people fell for that, that they wanted to be hip. They wanted to be right with the new crowd of U-apology.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's you sound more scientific, you sound smarter, and so you can look down on everybody else. And it's very suspicious. The UAP thing, I never bought into it. I always said UFO because that was my immediate thing. Is 52, they changed the name to UFO. It used to be flying saucers and flying discs, but if you're talking about flying saucers and flying discs, it's pretty apparent what you're talking about. And they didn't want that. They wanted this thing where, it's nebulous, and it could be anything, and it's just unidentified. And then now we're into this whole thing about undersea and all these different terms, and it's just this lingo, almost like when you go to a dentist or a doctor and you have no idea what the guy's talking about. They've got their own language, so that nobody can contract them out. You can't replace them because they're in their own little thing, and they have their little certificates for that. Let's say you're a doctor or a chiropractor, and if you do anything against, they can throw you in jail.
Grant Cameron, we got him for another hour on Spaced Out Radio. Where's this all going? Where's it all going? We got to find out from Grant when we return. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Grant, we are clear. We're going to play a video. Hey, David Huber, I didn't even put two and two together that you and Claudette were a couple. Can't wait to meet you guys at Caribou Con, by the way. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to play a video right now, Grant. We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Our merch is Bigfoot approved. We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have hoodies, we have socks, we have hats, we have stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can buy Spaced Out Radio merch and look the part? Our merch ain't ugly, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Lurking within the forested region of the 108-mile ranch, where the worlds of the normal and paranormal collide. Caribou Con is waiting for you, bringing together a panel of renowned experts in the paranormal, cryptid research, and UFO phenomena fields. Get ready for a spine-tingling weekend in the heart of British Columbia. Enjoy fascinating discussions, presentations, tours of local haunted areas, and skywatching. Learn from investigators, authors, and enthusiasts who explore everything from ghost hunting techniques to sightings of Sasquatch and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned paranormal researcher or just love a good spooky story, this is your chance to connect with fellow enthusiasts in one of BC's most mysterious areas. Tickets are on sale now. Grab yours before they're gone. Visit cariboucon.com for details, tickets, and updates.
Are you ready to dive into the weird and wonderful world of cryptids, cartoons, and chaos? Meet Dirty Filth, Spaced Out Radio's resident cartoonist and master of the mysterious. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, join him live on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel for Cryptid Cartoons with Dirty Filth, a hilarious hour where he sketches bizarre beasts, shares mind-bending stories, and battles his mischievous cats. Whether you're a UFO enthusiast, paranormal fan, or just love quirky art, Dirty Filth filters the universe through his unique lens, creating cartoons that capture the strange, dark, and supernatural. Follow Dirty Filth on X at Filth1 or Facebook at Dear Filth for more filthy fun. Find his link in the description below.
Spaced Out Radio wants to hear from you. We love our community, and your voice truly matters. Drop a comment after every show and let us know what you thought. Agree with our guests? Tell us why. Disagree? We want to hear that too. We read every single comment. Jump into the live chat during the broadcast and be part of the conversation in real time. Got a killer topic idea? Your suggestions help shape the show. And if you want to take it even further, join our Patreon for bonus content and direct feedback opportunities with Dave and the team. This is your show as much as it is ours. Whether you're a longtime listener or brand new, we want your thoughts, your questions, and your ideas. And let's keep building this incredible community together. Spaced Out Radio, where the conversation never ends. What are you waiting for? We're listening.
With 5 explorable Gold Rush-era buildings said to be home to spirits of a time forgotten, the 108-mile heritage site in the heart of BC's Caribou region offers a unique opportunity for thrill seekers and history buffs. For an evening of historical fun, step into our guided ghost tours, where spine-chilling stories of Gold Rush legends and unexplained encounters come alive. For those craving even more, inquire with us about conducting a hands-on paranormal investigation of your own. And if you're truly brave, book our haunted sleepovers. Spend the night at our B&B inside the McNeil House to truly experience this historical landmark and its ghostly secrets firsthand. For booking or inquiries, go to haunted108.com.
All right, we bring Grant Cameron back in. Thank you to our super chatters, Vaughn Patrick ×2, David, and Lil Cam. We appreciate your love and support. Who jumped in late here? Vaughn, I haven't forgot your questions, okay? I have not. We'll ask questions here in hour 2. Let's see here. I think we're caught up. I'll put Dave's back up here. And we're going to get going here right now. This is hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is tachophobia. Tachophobia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Grant Cameron is our guest tonight, as he is a longtime UFO researcher. One of the OGs that became popular over the last, few decades. We can't even say few years anymore. We got to say few decades. He's wonderful as a speaker, wonderful with knowledge. You can find all of his books on Amazon. Grant, welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me back, and I do appreciate what you do in terms of playing the Super Bowl. You're inside the stadium, and hopefully you'll be rewarded someday.
Well, we'll see if we can get there one day. But I mean, when you look at the way disclosure, or what I like to call confirmation, is being covered, even Robert Bigelow in his new podcast with George Knapp basically called it confirmation of the phenomena going on. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the word, let's see now, how did he, confirmation, he used it for a very specific reason, and the reason is escaping me now, what it was all about. I think in terms of what he's doing and what other people are doing, I think we're actually going to get something. I think we're going to get even an acknowledgement that that this whole thing is real and the government's been lying. I think the more this drags on with these new documents coming out and stuff like that, and major news outlets doing the odd story on it now, I would not be surprised if there was some sort of confirmation that that we're not alone. before I would have said no, but now it's the government thing is all sort of falling apart in terms of government officials talking and all these people, whistleblowers, even though they may be not real, they're still sort of upping the idea, this confirmation idea that, yeah, it's all for real. So I'm actually pretty positive. The question still comes, Walker's question: what are you going to do when you get it? Like in terms of because now this latest story is that Trump has got his own black ops going, and that they've shot down crafts and stuff like that. That it's a story that's sort of widely covered, whereas in our day it wasn't. If you had I remember Steve Bassett used to have that thing where he would put UFO articles up on his website when there's somebody wrote a UFO article in a newspaper or something like that. Now it's just like an absolute inundation of information and stuff, and you can't figure out what's real, what's not real, but it just sort of overwhelms. It's hard to even keep up with all the various breaking stories and people claiming stuff, and this latest thing with MITRE Corporation, which I had worked on before in connection with Ron Pandolfi, this idea that they're actually asking for specific documents, and that they're going to try to force out this tape with Ruppelt talking in 1952, where he's briefing people on the UFO situation, and a lot of stuff seems to be shaking loose, and so I would not be surprised if we get some sort of even confirmation, not firm, but the level of people's intelligence on this subject has rapidly moved since 2017. It's a different game than it was. We were sort of spinning our wheels in terms of trying to figure what's going on. And my aspect is the whole consciousness thing, that this is more complex. And even that kind of stuff, the amount of material that I get now is unlike anything before. And it all comes down to even AI. I'm going to show this video for their Air Force One with the UFO or Air Force One. This is November 9th, 2024, landing at Rockford, Illinois. It's Biden coming in on Air Force One, and there's this very strange UFO and a bunch of other things that appear to be UFOs, just really, really bizarre film. And I'm going to show the film, and then I'm going to show the stills, 40 stills from this. We have two cameras that caught this thing. And one was on top of there was a bunch of people filming on the roof, because everybody was trying to film Air Force One coming in on this runway. And everybody knew it was going to land. Secret Service had shut off the street. Nobody was allowed to go for lunch until Air Force One had landed. And so everybody was up on the roofs of these buildings photographing Air Force One as it comes in. And we have two different cameras from two different positions. One is on the ground, one is up on the roof, and they both catch this object. And so we can do triangulation and stuff. And there, when you see that, you go, and I put it through AI. I haven't really. You're the first person that's going to see this live, where I'm going to actually show the film. Nobody's seen the film yet. But when I was putting it through AI, and it was the same old story. It was like, oh no, it's a balloon, it's a plane. And it's like, give your head a shake. And one AI said it was Starlink. This is like 11:25 in the morning. It's like bright sunshine, and it's a Starlink, because the thing breaks in. It sort of looks like it breaks into three pieces, this object, as it goes by the tail of the plane, and then it goes back into one object again. And so that's where they said, I said, and it's not a balloon, it's not a plane, it's a bird. They said it was a bird. It was the same old story. And so we ended up with the situation with, well, what do you do with it? And I always said that was the problem with visual stuff or UFO reports, is they don't go anywhere. Like, yeah, it's an interesting video, but everybody's got their opinion of what this is, and you're just not going to get anywhere with it. But it was a very unique thing that the cameras are about, or cell phones are about 30 feet apart. These two film, one from the ground, one from 20 feet in the air on the roof. So I'll show it at the conference, but it goes like every other UFO video. It's very interesting. but it really, in the end, doesn't really prove anything. So that's my sort of take on this ufology thing, where people are getting more and more accustomed to the fact that this thing's for real. Whereas if you went before 2017, a lot of people just said, no, it's not for real. And in the end, I say it's all going to be real. All this stuff. That's what Jim Semivan said in his briefing. He had the 7-hour briefing after he had the beings in his room. He got a 7-hour briefing from high-level officials, and he said that they hadn't really made any progress on the UFO front, but all the psi stuff was real. And that's where I work on this aspect, that it has this very bizarre sort of psychic component to it, that if you get an experiencer, usually they're doing Reiki healing, or they're psychic, or they can affect electronics and stuff like that. All this kind of stuff is starting to come in that in the 70s we didn't know. It was basically in the 70s it was UFO. You had a UFO sighting, you might have got a photograph, but it was very rare because you were using 35 millimeter film. Then you had to actually set the camera up, and it had to be on a tripod if you're shooting at night and stuff like that. So there was almost very few photographs of it. But now it's like there's so much material, so much in the media talking about this, that I think people have been acclimatized to the fact that, yeah, this is for real, and the government can say whatever they want. So, and I think that's what the phenomena wants. It just wants to raise the consciousness, continue to do these weird things. And the more we talk about it, the more you have shows like you and I could talk to people, the more people realize that this is probably for real, and they realize the world is not the world they thought it was.
Greg Cameron is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. A lot of people believe that a lot of these groups that are coming in, whether it's Disclosure Foundation or Soul or anything like this, is just a big grift to try and get government contracts into the fold. And that way they are paying for their so-called research in private money or donated money. Avi Loeb has stated, at one point he believes he needs at least $1 billion to get close to try and figure out the phenomena. Has this turned into a giant grift in order to try and create revenue sources?
Well, that's the way academics works, is the publisher perish thing, where in order to keep going, you got to get grants. And that's why I always, you be suspicious of reports that are put out by various people. I always, sometimes I show the film. I don't know if you've seen the film of the 7 guys from the tobacco industry in the United States in front of Congress. And they say, does smoking cause cancer? And then the first guy says, the first lawyer says, there's no firm evidence that cancer causes, or smoking causes cancer. Number 2, same thing. Number 3, same thing. They all say exactly the same thing down the road. And it's this idea that whatever you're trying to study, you got to hype it up that you're going to discover something, and academics have to raise money. So you got the phenomena now is you're allowed to talk about it in, say, the Pentagon or in academic circles. And so everybody's seen, that they think there's going to be a pile of money in this thing. And there is. I mean, if you take a look at the Tim Taylor thing, where he gets the invention, this thing that he put on the space shuttle, that turned out to be true. And that company that had that invention and sold for $88 million on NASDAQ. So there is money if you can get it. But that's what it always comes down to, is academics trying to raise money for their various projects. But they have their own spin on it. Like Avi Loeb, really, I don't think has any interest in UFOs at all. He's just into this whole thing of using UFOs to get money for his projects on meteorites and proving extraterrestrial life that way. So it's this world of money. It's the 3 rules in the United States: money, money, and money. And that's what it always comes down to, is who can raise the money. And you see Soul trying to raise piles of money, whereas you and I, you pay it out of your pocket, like the old joke about, what does the ufologist do if he wins $1 million? Just keep researching until the money's gone. And it's like, it's just something you do for the love of it. And because like, to me, it's like just this, it's like a chess game. It's like, I'm going to figure this thing out. And and I'm trying to put all the pieces together, and it's exciting. It's when you discover something, but for academics, it's a totally different world where they have to fund something, and because you have academics in the field now, they're all coming up with new projects and new things to spend money on, and whether it's going to get anywhere or not, I don't know. But the consciousness is rising, and as I said, I would not be surprised if there was some sort of admission that yes, there's a project going on, and it's a black budget program, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Tom DeLonge came out recently as in hours ago, basically saying that he is still actively consulting the U.S. government on UFOs. He said at a Comic-Con where he was speaking on a panel saying, I am an active consultant on the government UFO releases. There's a lot more coming. This is just the beginning. He described the recent public releases as only the opening phase of a much larger process, stating there is substantially more material still to come. Are you buying this? Do you think he's still in? The Two of the Stars are still relevant?
Well, he's interested, and I guess he's still got the contacts. I always point out to people, like people think he's a smart guy to put the whole thing together. And in effect, basically what happened is he knew somebody who worked for Skunk, somebody's relative worked for Skunk Works, and they made him a phone call and said, come and introduce the president. And like, why would you have a rock star go to Skunk Works to introduce the president at the company picnic on the parking lot outside the building? And then that person sent him to the skiff, and then the three guys in the skiff talked to him, and then they sent him to Washington, and he meets the intelligence people. Then they send him to NASA, and then they send him to all these different things. And they arranged all these people, like the general, like McCaslin. He was arranged. He was given McCaslin. He didn't find McCaslin. And that's the whole thing, is he got dragged into this whole thing of this disclosure thing, that they want to be out in front of the story. And because he said, you guys can't get this thing out, nobody's listening to you. I've got all these Facebook people that follow me, and they figured, well, this would be the way, because I do believe that there is a bunch of people in the government who basically want this thing out. That's what Jim Semivan said. This whole thing where he went to the three-letter agencies because he had his own experience, and he whines and complains because they violated his human rights. And I go, like, you're covert ops, man. Like, do you ask permission when you go and steal something from another country or take out some foreign leader or something like that? Just like, and he's doing this whole victim thing. And I say that's probably the best sighting that ever took place in the world. Because they rang his bell, they came into his room and they rang his bell, and he got curious like you and I, and then he decided he wanted to figure out what was going on, and he started asking around, and then realized the government had some stuff, and then he went and gave them the ultimatum and said, you guys had your chance to get this out. You didn't get it out. We're going to get it out. We're not going to release classified information. We're going to drop this thing. And next thing you know, the New York Times article dropped, and I say Semivan was behind it. And that started this whole disclosure thing. If it hadn't been for the aliens in the room, none of this would have happened, because Jim Semivan wouldn't have been interested in UFOs. So you have this situation where there's a bunch of high level people who I believe are trying to get this thing out, and they're trying to control the story and figure some way to release this thing. And that's what Tom DeLonge is. He's part of this sort of operation. As I mentioned to you, that I got involved in one of these ones just recently, where a film producer out of Vancouver had offered to do a UFO documentary, and he would allow them to tell the story the way they wanted to tell them. And suddenly we had this contact and this meeting, and he goes to this hotel room, and they're checking for bugs and this whole thing. And we're going to introduce you to this group of people, the people that are running the thing. And there's two former CIA directors. And this is all for real, because I was in the middle of this thing. I was sitting watching from the outside, and I kept saying, Michael, watch out, watch out. They're controlling this situation. And he didn't have the money to do the documentary, and so it sort of faded away. But they're always doing these sort of projects to sort of gradually sort of put the story out, but then pull it back where you got no confirmation. So we've got all these kind of stories, and a lot of them are probably true. But there are people inside the government, and basically by experience, like Hal Puthoff had his experience, Jacques Vallée had his experience. They all had the UFO sighting, and they're all trying to figure it out the same as you and I. They're at a different level, but because those people are involved, it's a completely different world than 75. There was no high level officials talking about this, or no indication that there was ever going to be any sort of release. And now everything's sort of changed, I think, in terms of what might happen. I would not be, as I already learned my lesson in 2017. I never believed in my life that would happen. That suddenly New York Times would say, "Yeah, we're investigating UFOs," and the whole world would blow up, and suddenly all these people would enter, all these young kids. I call them the young guns, who were, suddenly into UFOs and stuff like that. In the old days, it was like a bunch of old people that went to UFO conferences.
Grant Cameron is our guest. We got 4 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. I want to get a couple audience questions in here first, Grant.
Yeah.
Do you think that the aliens, are benevolent, malevolent, or a mix?
I'm one of the people who say there's no good or evil. It's just they're doing their thing. If there's an enemy, they have not dropped an atomic bomb yet. If you're looking for the enemy is, as they said in the cartoon, we have met the enemy and he is us. We're the bad people in this whole thing in terms of what's going on. And so I know I don't believe the evil alien thing. I used to talk to Linda Howe about that, where she was on the thing about the good aliens and the bad aliens. And I said, and they were having a war over the earth. Who's going to control the earth, the good guys or the bad guys? And I said, well, Linda, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you're an alien, you're telepathic. So if you're telepathic, you know when you're going to be attacked. So how can you run a war if everybody knows what's going to happen? It doesn't make any sense. So no, I don't really believe good aliens, bad aliens. I just believe that everything is an experience, and they are doing whatever they're doing to educate. I firmly believe that's what they're doing.
All right, let's get to another question here from Terry. Grant, do you think full disclosure will be used at a time to distract people from another event?
Well, as I pointed out, I mean, when the New York Times article came out, nobody did anything. So I would not be surprised if they made some sort of major disclosure and nothing happens. It's just like when they dropped the files. I mean, now nobody's even looking at the files, and people think it's a big joke. And the first couple minutes, it's like the old deal. It's like the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a big deal that everybody's watching the Super Bowl, and the next morning everybody goes back to work, and it's like back to normal. It's you completely forget about what happened the day before. I think that's what's going to happen. That people are so acclimatized to these stories that when it finally happens, I don't think there's going to be that big a reaction, because the story is so much bigger than we're being visited. In fact, I think it's probably going to be, because I've got two different alien people that, where they gave me messages that said, we've always been here. And then you start looking at this whole idea of what are we really dealing with here? Is this really extraterrestrials that come here to make triangles in the sky and drop from 80,000 feet down to sea level? I mean, that's showing off. That's, sort of a thing. I would not be surprised if nothing happens, and because it's a bigger thing. It's like, well, where are they coming from? We don't know. And the whole psychic thing, and the whole idea that there's this, as Lukatsky said, the whole Skinwalker Ranch from day one was about the paranormal. It was not about UFOs. Paranormal is the umbrella. UFOs is only a subset under the umbrella. And so that's basically, that's an admission from a high-level guy who said, we've been inside a craft. We've got a craft, and we entered the craft. 2011, he was in Congress. He said it publicly. It's in a book. It's approved by the government, and it didn't go anywhere. It's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, like, what's inside the craft? And it's like, this kind of stuff. People are just, they want the next story. You're like, what's the next thing? What about this? What about that? That's what's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be much of a reaction at all. Everybody knows they got bodies and crafts now. It's not, people are just going to go, okay, we know about that. Now tell us about this. And it's the million and one questions that they don't really want to get into because they haven't got answers for most of the questions.
Well, as we pare down for break here, Grant, it's interesting to hear Eric Davis coming out that we have 4 different alien species and that some of them are alive, some are not. And, we got their craft, we got everything, but I can't tell you where anything is. I can't show you any documents. I can't show you anything. And I understand the guy is tied up with NDAs up his yin yang, So, he's got to be very careful with what he says. But we have Grant Cameron till the top of the hour, more audience questions, and figure out what Soul is doing next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. We are clear.
We are clear. That Davis thing, I was kind of disappointed. I thought he was pretty sharp. When he said there's only 4 aliens, like, come on, you and I could probably name 20 different types of aliens on our, and it's like, come on, you really believe that? It's like, come on. Like the Greys weren't around till the 61. The reptilians that weren't discussed till the 1980s. It's like, this is like the latest iteration of aliens that appeared over the years. And I remember the guy that had the humanoid. He had a catalog of 20,000 humanoids. I said, how many different types are there? And he said, well, I've never counted, but he says, got to be at least over 1,000 in my catalog.
At least.
Yeah. But so he says 4. And then I'm going, what the heck? Where have you been? Like, holy shit.
What in tarnation? How are you? Nice to see you, my dear. Yes, we can get rid of that question. And yeah, Brad's been in the chat room recently again.
Brad?
Yeah, who's coming with you?
Oh, yeah. That Brad. Okay. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, he's kind of an active type guy that had a lot of meetings with in Winnipeg. He's at the university doing something there. So
good.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting weekend.
I'll be down in Vancouver next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Going to Guns N' Roses next weekend.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. How often do you get into Vancouver? Not that often?
As much as I don't have to.
Yeah, even me, I like going downtown. It's like a 1-day trip if you gotta go downtown and come back. That's what they said. They were like at the event. They said, we're going to the bar after. And I said, I got like 1 hour back on the bus, and then I got to drive from there. Like, no, we're not going to the bar. No.
Yep.
It's like 10 o'clock. I'm heading home. Even then, I almost missed my last bus. You get back to Port Coquitlam, and it's like 12:20 or 12:40, and the last bus is gone. And then you're trying to figure out how the hell am I going to get home here, or get to my car and then drive home. Yeah, the train is nice, but it's a long trip, man. Holy shit. I don't know how these people do it driving to work. They listen to your show, hopefully, driving to work for an hour every day.
Hopefully. All right. Isidore, welcome, or Isildur, welcome to SOR chat. Yes, Guns N' Roses next week.
How's your podcast? You get a lot of listeners on the podcast?
Trying to figure it out. We're improving.
Yeah.
Our radio station, we just added Kelowna, and which bleeds into Vernon and Penticton. It opened us up to about 300,000 listeners.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's really nice. I'm trying to land Victoria right now. I'm going to be meeting with their PD here soon. So
there you go. So you'll be the center of Vancouver, or center of.
I would love to get into Vancouver. But the way the landscape in big cities is changing right now, It's getting tougher.
Yeah. Yeah. I stick to my own little section here unless I got to go downtown for something. Otherwise, I just stay here and
Right.
enjoy the weather.
Mentira wants to know, Grant Camera, what kind of music and bands do you like?
That's my whole tuned in book. When I got told the Guardians, Chris Butzel told me the Guardians got a message for you, and I said, "What is it?" He said, "The message is in the music." I said, "Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. I don't listen to music." So, I'm a radio talk show guy, but I've written 2 books on music. I have no background in music. My father would roll over in his grave if he knew I was doing books on music. He'd say, "No way." But I do all the weird music, all the paranormal music stories. But no, I don't. Yeah, of course, I'm Guess Who. I'm from Winnipeg, so Guess Who and all the bands that came out of there. So, but that's old stuff that people here don't even really pay attention to anymore because they got their major weird story about American Woman.
Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have legendary UFO researcher Grant Cameron right till the top of the hour. We're going to get right to it. You can find all of Grant's books on Amazon. Go check him out. If you want a UFO library, that is where you start. Grant Blanken Cameron, right there. Grant, thank you for being here tonight. We love it when you're here.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the invite to your big soiree.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you right now, and there is no joke to this whatsoever. When you bring in Grant Cameron to a conference like Caribou Con, the list that he gives you that you have to do in order to jump through the hoops and barrels just to get him to think about it. Red M&Ms only, limousine ride from the airport and back, no eye contact allowed. I mean, it's heavy, man. This is a tough gig for me, man.
There you go. Well, you're sort of off the beaten track there, and you got to fly people into Vancouver, I guess, to move them up there. And but it's a beautiful country. That's where people got to realize where you are is like right in the middle of the Canadian Rockies, and beautiful scenery, and just a place, even just for a holiday, just to go there. Forget about the conference. I mean, that's an extra, the cherry on top.
Well, if you're coming from the United States driving to Alaska, just wave when you drive by. You might see me. Just wave. Literally live right along the highway. All right, Grant, I want to read this to you. This came into my email inbox from a good source of yours and mine, Nicole Sakich.
There you go.
Okay. This comes from the Soul Foundation, and I want to get your opinion on this.
Okay.
All right. This was an email sent out to their supporters. Preparing the public and the government for UAP disclosure, a new national study will examine how evidence, messengers, and public safeguards shape Americans' response to disclosure. To me, I'll mention what I think after this. This is where it gets interesting. Dear friends and supporters, I hope that you are feeling as excited as we are about the prospects for disclosure now that the Trump White House has taken several decisive actions toward it, and its releases of UAP records and its recent executive directive concerning whistleblowers to its establishment of the UAP Science Advisory Board Council, which includes several members of Soul's leadership, Dr. Gary Nolan, retired Admiral Tim Gallaudet, and myself, and we'll get to who wrote this after. Whether or not future actions are as decisive as we hope, the process the president has set in motion greatly increases the likelihood that this or a future administration will disclose the federal government's knowledge of UAP and non-human, possibly extraterrestrial intelligence. I'm reaching out because the Soul Foundation is beginning a scientific study that could provide crucial guidance to both the president and Congress on how to conduct disclosure successfully and with minimal harm. The innovative study led by University of California, Irvine, I'm going to get this wrong, epidemiologist, probably got that wrong, Dr. Christopher Salazar, and myself will help us understand for the very first time how Americans are likely to respond to different aspects of UAP disclosure announcements, including who delivers the news, what evidence is presented, and how that evidence is verified and how the message is framed. The study will examine who communicates disclosure, what evidence is presented, how the evidence is independently verified, how uncertainty and risk are explained, what safeguards increase public confidence. Using a research method known as a discrete choice experiment, a national representative sample of individuals will be asked to compare realistic disclosure scenarios. This will allow us to understand which combination of evidence, messengers, and safeguards make disclosure feel credible, reassuring, confusing, or alarming. We will also investigate how reactions differ according to age, race, ethnicity, religion, family situation, prior UAP interest, and trust in government and science. The study's findings can be used to develop an evidence-based plan to execute and communicate disclosure in ways that build public trust, ease fear, and safeguard well-being. Additionally, the methods we employ could transform the study of encounters with UAP by broadening the focus to include not only individual reports and testimony, but population-level data and mass societal perception. As a current or past supporter of Soul, I want to ask you to consider supporting this study. As many of you know, the current economy has slowed down philanthropy and much of as capital raises, and we need to launch the study as soon as possible to keep up with the pace of disclosure in DC. We're therefore holding a Zoom call September 4th of this year, during which Dr. Salazar and I will share more information about the objectives, methods, and plans for the study, our preliminary pilot study results, and a series of planned peer-reviewed publications and related policy reports. We hope that you can join the call, which is a unique opportunity to learn about one of the most impactful projects Soul has ever undertaken since first launching our annual symposium. Please RSV below, Dr. Peter Skafish. What's your thoughts on this?
You don't know. Blah blah blah. They're just fundraising. It's like we're the academics. It's like when they made the announcement there was going to be no. They're going to move away from the woo. So no experiencers. You're not allowed to bring an experiencer in there. Whitley Strieber is complaining that he was never allowed to talk or anything like that. And it's basically this ivory tower deal where they're smarter than everybody else. They're better than everybody else. Send us your money and we'll tell you what's going on. But the report, my question would be, if you see what the report is going to do, how many people are going to read it? Nobody, except a bunch of academics. It's totally useless for the average person on the street in terms of statistics. And my question would be peer reviewed. Who's the peer? Who's there going to review the thing? That is it their own buddies who are going to review it? I did read that part of that email when they sent it to me, even though I haven't donated my inheritance to them, but I don't know. It's like the university had all those fundraising things as well. You know, it's like we need the money for this and that, and people who are in the field may donate. You know, if they're academics and they feel, you know, anxious to do it. To me, it's like, no, it does. I don't think I'll contribute to their thing, especially when they said no, no experiencers. They said first we're going to prove that the UFOs, the nuts and bolts thing, and then we'll go to the consciousness. They're not denying the consciousness thing, but the whole point is, until you go to the consciousness thing, you're just not going to understand the whole thing. So it's I'm kind of although they do have some good interviews. I mean, I will give Soul Conference when they do interviews. I kind of listen to their interviews, but it's the academic thing that I came out of in terms of these people who think they're special and they would never talk to you or I. And
well, they're better than us. They're better than the public. You know, here's the thing that really irks me, and I think we have a cause for concern from a public matter, is basically what this email is saying is that we want to raise money to do a study on how people are going to react to the phenomena so we can control the disclosure movement more. Which way, which direction do we control this narrative? That's what I got out of it. And what narrative do we give to the government as the proper narrative to bring disclosure to the public?
Yeah.
And I have said for years now, and I know you and I have talked about this, that this is about controlling a narrative. It isn't about honesty.
Sure.
It isn't about integrity. It isn't about aliens or disclosure. It's about what narrative can they spin to make themselves look good.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing in this study.
Yeah, there's all these people trying to control a narrative. That's what the government's doing with the disclosure stuff, with the psionics and stuff like that. You put it out there, and then everybody who's got anything, it's like a honeypot. They all go to it, and they get out in front of the story. It's like what Jim Semivan said to Chris Butzo: "If we wanted you dead, you would have been dead 10 years ago. We don't do that kind of stuff anymore." And they've learned this whole idea of controlling the narrative, and so it's the same old deal where people are going to tell us what to think. I mean, how can you? Most of them have no background in terms of experiencers or what's going on, or the psychic phenomena that happens with experiencers and stuff like that. They're totally clueless in terms of what's actually going on. They're just into this sort of idea that this is a nuts and bolts phenomena, and the government should give us funding, and we're going to, get free energy, and we're going to save the world, and all this kind of stuff. Which it's much more complex than that. When you do stuff like where you do paranormal shows and stuff like that, you realize that they're totally missing 9/10 of the whole story.
Grant Cameron is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. The fear of the experiencers, the fear of the people who talk. You don't see that in these studies, Grant. It's all nuts, bolts, money, and public perception. What about the people who are experiencing this ultimate phenomena? I mean, do you ever see a time when they're going to get their just desserts?
I don't know. Nah, it's a good question. I'm not really too sure. I've been especially when you see these guys trying to take control now of the whole phenomena, that ufology is now, if it works the way they want it to be, it'll be an academic pursuit at university, and you're going to need prerequisites to get in, and you have to have your degree. Otherwise, you can't talk about ufology because you're not licensed to practice ufology. That's where it's going. It's to get control of it, and to create your own vocabulary, and then you can charge whatever you want to give advice, because I'm sure their advice is not going to be free to the government. People sit on boards and they make huge amounts of money. And the people who are on the ground, I think that deal with the experiencers and deal with the UFO phenomena their whole life, realize that's missing the boat in terms of what's actually going on. It's a very fluid phenomena which involves all sorts of different aspects, which they're still not going to go to, because those aren't approved things in terms of, they're still into the scientific world where it's, unless you can measure it and this sort of thing, it's not science. And when you take a look at the phenomena, you basically see that nothing is measurable. They didn't, as Bigelow pointed out, and as any experiencer knows, everything they do is different. Like at Skinwalker Ranch, you watch the show week after week after week, and they're doing different things. Different things are happening. It never does the same thing twice. That was what Bigelow said. That was one of the rules. And so you're never going to be able to measure it scientifically in the way they want to measure it. It's a phenomena that is very elusive and is in control.
Grant, when we go down that whole control aspect, what do you think of Robert Bigelow stating in his podcast with George Knapp that he has briefed the president and said, you need to make a statement?
Yeah, well, he got the because he put so much money into, they got to listen. They have to give him an audience. Trump didn't do what he wanted to do. He mentioned that in the interview, that the last time he told Trump to do something, he didn't do it. But he did. It was a couple weeks after. That's when Trump had made the announcement for releasing the UFO files. So he did, but it was the old deal. It was like the same thing that they, like with this study, it's going to be, they had 250,000 sightings. And I always say, what are we going to gather some more sightings and we're going to do this kind of stuff? What do we get? 251,000 sightings? That's going to solve the problem? No. You're going to get 300,000 sightings? No. You're doing the same stupid thing you did in 1947. We're doing the same thing over and over again. That the answer, I believe, lies with the experiencer. It doesn't lie with the photographs. Like, as I said, this video that we've got of Air Force One and this UFO ain't going anywhere, because it's the same thing as everything else. It's not measurable. The phenomena is just sort of showing off again, and it's doing these weird things. And uniqueness is part of the UFO phenomena. That if it's non-physical, if it's in some sort of different realm, you're not going to be able to measure it with a yardstick and a voltmeter. That's what we think. We got the tools, and we're going to figure this sort of thing out. And it's way more complex than that in terms of what's going on. The consciousness thing is a major factor. And in the UFO community, we've made a headway on that people will talk about consciousness, but in most cases, they don't know what they're talking about. They know it's a buzzword. So it has become very popular, especially the psionic thing, which got the thing going, where people started to realize that maybe this craft is alive and it's being flown by the mind, and there's all this other stuff going on. But that's not where these guys are going. They're going into the straight nuts and bolts. We're going to scientifically investigate this thing. That's been done 1,000 times. It ain't going anywhere, because it's just not a scientific endeavor that you can measure this phenomena.
Very true. All right, Grant, let's get to another question here. And let's go to Jorge here. Grant, will you ever release the full unredacted Nellie Bledsoe files?
Nellie Bledsoe files. I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, the Nellie file. That's the dog thing. Well, I've released the photographs. Anybody wants the photographs, send me an email at whitehouseuFO@gmail. I'll send you the photos. That was the incident that made me realize Chris Bledsoe may be the real deal. And that was the Nellie, the dog, that they were letting the dog out of the house when I went down to go to Florida. And I didn't think it was significant that the dogs, the front door was open 3 times and the dogs all came back in the house. I just thought, well, he left the door open. And so when I came back, my interpretation of what happened is Chris was trying to sign this movie with Warner Brothers, and they wanted a sign, and that's when the tree burned. And then they said, okay, we're going to do the movie. And so when I got back, it was almost like the phenomena said, you weren't impressed with letting the dogs out, watch this. And that was when the dog started to bleed, the blood is shooting all over the wall and stuff like that. And it's all over my pants, on nobody else. It was all over me. And it was like, you weren't impressed, watch this. And I was pretty impressed. So I was taking photographs while this was going on. And that's after the story is in Alien Bedtime Stories, 2014. I wrote a whole story that has a lot of stuff that Chris Bledsoe has never talked about, like the melting photographs and all these kind of stories that he's never told. And I told that story there. So the Nellie story is there about what happened with the dog and stuff like that. And the photographs I can provide to anybody of this thing. And that's when Chris claimed that he could start to heal. He could heal people after that event with Nellie, where he was holding the rag on the dog's neck, and the dog got up and he ran to the front door and he barked at the front door and they took off. And they couldn't find a wound on the dog. They couldn't find where the blood had come from. So it was a pretty paranormal event that took place. And I filmed the whole thing. And then Chris said it was the shadow people. And I said, well, why would the shadow people cut the dog? And he said, well, because they're evil. I said, what do you mean they're evil? How do you know they're evil? And he said, they're dark. I said, because they're dark doesn't mean they're evil. I said, you know what happened? I said, Warner Brothers wants this they want this in the movie. They want this in Warner Brothers movie, this bizarre thing with the dog. And he said, no, I don't think so. And then a couple of weeks later, he emailed me and said, you still got those photographs? And I said, yeah. He said, Warner Brothers would like to see him. I said, yeah, really? So it's going to be in the movie. If there's ever a movie, you're going to see this story about the dog with the blood shooting out its neck. And then suddenly there's no wound. The wound goes away. So that's the Nellie story it's Chris Bledsoe. And the dog, there's nothing wrong with the dog. It died a couple of years later. It got hit by a car. So.
All right. This may be the final question of the night. New listener, Chief Von Beef, asking, Grant, what is one major UFO claim you think the community has got completely wrong?
The community or the UFO community? Well, the consciousness thing of the UFO community, that's what they're missing. They're missing this psychic component. That is a big part of the UFO phenomena. As to the community, I don't blame the community. The community is people who are just trying to make a living. If I hadn't had the UFO sighting in 1975, I'd probably be as stupid as everybody else. I wouldn't be interested. You have to have the experience in many cases. And once you've had the experience, you go down the rabbit hole and you can't get out. But I don't blame people for not believing or whatever, because you even have doubts. You hear stories, even your best friend had a sighting, but you always have a 1% doubt in your mind that it really wasn't true. When it happens to you, until then you can only believe. So most people just believe or they disbelieve, but once you've had an experience, and nobody's going to change your mind. That's the real knowledge, is the knowing, is having the experience with this phenomena, which can absolutely throw you down the rabbit hole. And it's like the near-death experience situation where 75 to 80% of people get divorced, because once you go down the rabbit hole, your other half thinks you're insane, try to lock you up in an insane asylum, and then say, you're not the same person I married, I'm getting out of here, you're crazy. And that's the kind of situation it is. Once you see it, you don't believe anymore, that. And that's, so the community gets most of it wrong, but I don't blame them at all. They've got other things to think about. This is our job to get the story out, and I'm glad I've had a chance to do it with you, because that is my role. I think that's my role, is to put in books what I think I discovered, to never keep a secret, to never withhold anything, and tell people exactly what I think is going on and what happened. I'll never ever cover up anything, and I'll say what's on my mind. And I think that's what you and I are here to do, is to get the consciousness to rise by talking about it, by getting people to listen to it and discuss it. And on your podcast, somebody listens, on the way to work, and they don't think it's garbage, whatever, and somebody will say something that will change their view. And we're like the sort of the missionaries to go out there and spread the word.
Grant, we have you for about one more minute tonight. I want to say a big thank you for coming back on Spaced Out Radio. It is always a complete pleasure when we have one quick question from John. Did Jim Semivan ever discuss his neck wound with you?
I've never talked to him. He did discuss the fact that he had a hole in the back of his neck, that a high-level official came to him and said, did you have a wound? And he said, no. And then he said, let me look at the back of your neck. And that's when the other guy found the wound. So no, he never discussed that. And he hasn't discussed the one question I would want to ask Jim Semivan is, he said there was a being behind him. And this is when you get these patterns with experiencers. He said, there was a being behind me. I don't know what it was, but it had this guardian type thing going on about it. And I'm going, guardian? Maybe it was a guardian angel. And then I started to realize all sorts of people that I talked to have been on the ship had somebody behind them that they weren't allowed to turn around and look. And you start to see these patterns and you go, this is weird. What are these people doing behind them and instructing as if there's somebody behind running the show on the craft, whether it's a guardian angel, whatever it is.
Grant Cameron, everybody. Grant, we will see you next month at Caribou Con. Coming
Beautiful.
up next, Swamp Dweller and extra small Lee Strauss is here for the UFO
You're
report.
listening to Spaced Out Radio.
Been an honor.
Your host, Dave Scott.
Great job tonight, boss. Great job. Hold on, let me unmute you here. Why will you? There you go.
Here we go. Hopefully we converted somebody.
Oh, maybe one person, half a person. The over under was 0.52. So
There you go. There you go.
See you next
Well,
month,
it's an honor to talk to you, Dave, and thanks for what you do. I really look up to you. You work harder than anybody in the field, I think, with all you do for.
You are the hero. You are the legend, and I'm not allowed to make eye contact with you. So that's all I know. We'll see you next month, Grant.
Okay, talk to you. Thanks.
care.
Bye-bye.
Stop now! You're under arrest! Hands up! Don't move!
Don't get caught without your Spaced Out Radio merchandise. We have t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, socks, hats, stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can look the part? We don't have ugly merch, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Dirty filth. Dirty filth. Dirty filth.
Object is heading north 045 degrees. It's definitely not a plane. It seems to be tethered to something. Is that a banner, Joe? Caribou Con. Does anyone know what Caribou Con is?
Caribou Con, one of the BC Caribou region's best-kept secrets. Until now. Join our panel of renowned paranormal experts for a weekend of fun and intriguing presentations. Go to cariboucon.com to book or inquire now.
Over here.
Discover Spaced Out Radio on all your favorite platforms. We're live every single night with the best in UFOs, cryptids, paranormal, and the unexplained. And you can find us on all your favorite platforms. Head over to Instagram for behind the scenes and daily weirdness, TikTok for quick mind-bending clips, Facebook for community discussions, and X for real-time updates and hot takes. Wherever you scroll, Spaced Out Radio is there. So go search Spaced Out Radio on every platform, hit follow, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single episode. The Weird is waiting. See you there.
The McNeil House is one of several buildings at the 108-mile heritage site said to be haunted by spirits of a time long forgotten. But would you stay the night? Along with guided ghost tours and paranormal investigations, Haunted 108 is offering a chance to spend the entire night inside the historic McNeil House by booking one of our B&B style sleepovers, where you can experience the hauntings firsthand, meet the resident ghost cat, and witness unusual activity. If you dare to turn history into a night you'll never forget, book your spot now at haunted108.com. Spots are limited. Will you be brave enough?
All right, we bring in extra small Lee Strauss hanging on out with us. There he is.
How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you? A big thank you to our great moderators during Spaced Out Radio show. Make sure you say thank you. They keep the chat room safe. They keep it fun. They keep it interesting. Thank you guys for the hard work you do. Thank you to our super chatters, Vaughn ×2, Lil Cam, David, and Swamp Dwellers. About 4.5 minutes, buddy. Or 4 minutes. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in as we have a lot of fun coming up in hour 3 with Swamp Dweller and Lee Strauss. But first, before we get going, we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on every major podcast network and on our YouTube channel. We love broadcasting live to all of our radio stations across North America as well. So thank you so much for tuning us in from Kelowna to Mississauga, all the way down to Alabama and right across to Arizona and Utah, everywhere in between. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Taphophobia. Taphophobia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
My name is Lucas, and I'm 16. I live in Pennsylvania near the Appalachian Mountain Range. As a kid growing up, we would always go to my uncle's cabin in the mountains that we also hunted at. There's a long driveway leading up to the cabin and a big parking area with a spotlight looking down on it. It was in late November and the night before the first day of whitetail buck season, so we had our regular get-together at the cabin. There was a lot of drinking going on, so I kind of distanced myself from all of it and went outside to take a smoke break. As I walked outside, I will never forget the sound I heard. It was a mix between an animal in distress and almost a creepy laugh. I'm easily scared and quickly went back inside. After a while, the others went to sleep, and it was just me still awake. I suffer from insomnia, and my mind races all night. I was thinking about something random when all of a sudden I heard the same noise I had heard before and was very disturbed. I eventually fell asleep and woke up the next morning ready to go hunting. We got done and I had forgotten all about it. So night comes, and once again the older people I was with were slamming beers, so I just played on my phone. One of the guys eventually went out for a smoke break and didn't come back for a while, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, so my dad told me to go check on him. As I walked outside, I saw him, standing next to my dad's car, and yelled, "Hey, we were wondering where you went off to." But then I nearly shit a brick, as I heard a voice behind me say,
"Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking for my playing cards in my truck."
I turned around to see him walking towards me, and as I looked back at my dad's car, there was no one. I didn't want to look like an idiot in front of anyone else, so I mentioned it only to my dad. He told me I must have seen the shadow of a tree or something. He's a Christian and refuses to believe in that kind of thing. So the next morning, we hear a shot ring out, and come to find my uncle has shot a deer. We help him collect it and clean it, hang it up and butcher it. Then they all celebrated by drinking more beer, and I was once again left out. It was around 4 p.m. now, so we were about to eat the deer my uncle had shot, when my uncle said something. He said,
"That's funny. I could have sworn I put the chops over the grill to cook."
But he shook it off as being a coyote or something. So we ate our supper, and once again, it was time for bed. Again, I couldn't sleep, so I sat up on my phone and played games. I forgot to mention that whenever my uncle shoots a deer, he throws all the guts into a pit we call the feeding trough, as there are a lot of coyotes in the area. Just a way of giving back to the wildlife, I guess. Anyway, I was laying up in bed when I heard that same noise again. It sounded farther away, and I wasn't worried about going and taking a look outside to maybe try and put an image to this creepy noise I was hearing. So I looked out the front door and I saw it. It was on all fours, eating guts out of the feeding trough. I thought it was a coyote at first, but it then stood up. It was looking straight at me. I couldn't see its face, but I could see shadows coming from the top of its head, which I perceived to be horns. I didn't move a muscle, afraid it would come charging at the door. It stared at the cabin for a good minute or so, just before vanishing. It didn't get down and trot off. It just disappeared. I told my dad what happened the next morning, and again he denied it being anything supernatural. Luckily, that was the last night I was staying there, and the next day I went online to try to figure out what the hell I saw. I guess it could have been a skinwalker or a wendigo, but I was never able to put a name to it. It still creeps me out to this day, and even though my uncle has sold that cabin since, I will never step foot in those mountains again.
Thank you, Swampy, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to Swamp Dweller, his YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you each and every day and night to listen to, except when you're listening to this show, because you get Swamp Dweller in hour 3 to kick things off. From the swamp to the stars, bring in Lee Strauss.
They call him extra small, but he's big where it counts. Chasing Bigfoot through the woods on wild accounts. Talking ghosts in the dark, UFOs in the sky. Aliens laughing while they're cruising by. Yeah, Lee Strauss is out there. Hear that cosmic call? He's a legend of Element 115. Here on Spaced Out Radio's Q&A.
Lee Strauss, it's always great to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. Do you know what was happening 1 year ago today?
I was there, brother.
You were up here.
That's right.
You were up here, and we were looking for Bigfoot. You had a close encounter that night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Get you to bring your microphone a little bit closer to you, buddy.
How about that? Is that better?
Yeah. What was your favorite part of that?
Well, man, you know, Hanging out with Tim James and you, it's the personal interactions that I had with you guys more than anything else. Yeah, we can have a good time looking for Sasquatch and aliens and trying to see UFOs in the sky and the paranormal on the ground, but it's really that connection that I have with you guys that was the most important thing to me.
I really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed it. I'm so excited about you coming up to Caribou Con. Grant Cameron, our guest, the first couple of hours, will be up here as well as many others, including Merle. Merle
That's
will
right.
be up here.
It was a good time with Merle too. I mean, seeing other people investigate is always interesting. You can pick up on things from other people and how they do things, and that sort of stuff is very helpful. Just in my own investigations and these investigations that you do, if you even want to call them that, because we're all very interested in the subject. So it's almost like we're not really investigators, but we're kind of like enthusiasts in a way. But seeing other people do their things, you pick up on things that you can use in your own investigations or when you're going out and looking for stuff. And that's what's very important as well, taking that knowledge home. And I'm hoping that all of you guys will join us after, later in the night for the sky watching and for the Bigfoot investigations and all of that sort of thing. There is so much to pick up on because you have a huge, team of people that know how to do this stuff and have been doing it for years. So I definitely think it's more than just watching a show on TV, like you watch Ghost Hunters or this sort of thing. The investigations that happen in real life, that aren't really filmed, you're going to pick up on stuff that you would not have picked up on before, for sure.
100%. 100%. And I'm so just looking forward to having you guys up here for Caribou Con, and that's September 18th through 20th. People can get their tickets at cariboucon.com. Caribou is spelled with two O's, not O-U. O-O. cariboucon.com. Go get them right now while you're listening. Just do it. Just say heck with it. Bring your friends. Come hang out. We'll talk some UFOs. We'll talk some ghosts. Talk some Bigfoot. And much more in between. So I'm looking forward to it very much. And it's going to be a great, great time indeed. Lee, when we look at the UFO world, we look at everything that's going on right now, there's a lot of positioning and a lot of jockeying that seems to be going on within the people who are trying to make money off of this. Okay? People who are trying to and I'm not saying podcasters, guys. Okay? I'm not saying podcasters or YouTube channels or anything. That's the small fruit that everybody picks on because people are on those apps. Okay? I'm saying the big dudes who are going for contracts with the U.S. government or governments around the world about disclosure. And this letter that I got from Nicole Sakic from the Soul Foundation, basically saying, that they want to do a study on the best way to control the message coming on out. I'm a little weirded out and freaked out about this, Lee.
Everybody wants the corner and a piece of the pie, man. Yeah, I implore people to do their own investigations. It's good to pull information from these different sources, but you've got to realize too that these people are after, they're after their own notoriety, right? And I think there's so many people that really don't care about the notoriety, that just want answers for themselves, right? And that's the kind of thing that I think is most important. The people that want answers for themselves and don't have, thought in their mind of making money. Why the heck would this belongs to everybody? This doesn't belong to one person or one group. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. That is so flippin' small-minded. It really is. It's actually one of my hot button points because the stuff that I've dealt with personally, I'm not going to try to make money on it. Why? But I experienced it. I did. But that information isn't for me. It's not just mine. It's for everybody to hear. And I don't think we have to stop thinking about our oneness and start thinking about everybody here on the planet. You know what I mean? It's not, even though even though that stuff happened to me, but it happened to thousands and hundreds of thousands of other people. Come on. Let's let everybody in on what's going on here and why the hell is money so important? I don't understand that.
Well, I think it's because it's about getting, it's about the riches and government money always seems to be endlessly flowing. They don't care about debt. No government does. They don't care about anything. When they want more, they'll just go hit up more taxation, and that's the sad part about it is we don't have a say. And when it comes to UFOs, we're not looking at a giant budget. I mean, it's sad to say, but $1 billion, which Avi Loeb would like to get for his group, that's not a lot of money in today's budgets. It really isn't.
How much is it? You've got your cell phone. Go out someplace in the woods. Go someplace, on a mountaintop or close to the mountains where you can see the mountaintops. That's all you need to do your own investigation. You don't need to pay these people. You don't need to give them your money. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely asinine. Go out there and do the work if you want to know. You know what I mean? Or listen to somebody on a podcast. It doesn't cost anything to watch us here talk about it. It doesn't it cost anything to listen to Grant Cameron. I mean, just do those things. Why? I don't understand why people are so fixated on cash. It's like a god that is it's ridiculous to me. It just is ridiculous to me that people think that that's what matters in life, and it's not.
I don't even know if it's about UFOs and aliens anymore. I really,
No, there you
I
go.
really struggle with that at times. You and I have talked about that privately, and I often wonder, for people who want to have an experience or want to know if it's real, I agree with you 100%. Do your own research. You don't have to spend upon thousands of dollars in equipment. You don't have to spend, a lot of anything. The only thing you're going to be spending is time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But most people, Lee, when they go out on their patio or sit in their backyard or go up to a mountaintop because there's less light pollution, they don't know what they're looking at. They can't tell a satellite from a UFO. Most people can't. I struggle with that at times. Right? And not everybody's going to be lucky to see a rod fly across the sky. Okay? Not a tic tac, a rod. Okay? Not everybody's going to see a dumbbell fly across the sky. Not everybody's going to see a flying disc or a black triangle. And I think that's the frustration. Add to the probability that most of those people, Lee, are not like you or other UFO researchers who will go out for 6-7 hours at night. Okay, who will be outside until 2-3 in the morning when there's less pollution of light, where there's less pollution of aircraft, where there's a lot more stars to see, especially if you're on or near a new moon. Right? Those are the best nights when you're near a new moon.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But people aren't going to do that. They're going to go sit outside, stare in their backyard. They're going to go stare up at from their patio, maybe bring a lawn chair out. They're going to stare up for about, oh goodness, 20 minutes. Then what do you hear? My neck is sore, or it's too cold out. I'm going to go and gonna go inside. I didn't see anything, so there's my UFO research.
It's persistence, my friend. It really is. That, and just letting anything that's out there know that you're there, and you would appreciate being able to see them. And if you do that time over time over time, you'll see something. You will. You're going to notice different things in the sky, like, of course, satellites and the ISS and stuff like that. But you'll know in your heart of hearts if it's one of them.
How do you tell? You've filmed enough right now. You've taken your video cameras out to great places, high up. You've filmed UFOs. You've filmed satellites. How do you tell the difference?
Well, I remember the first time I saw Starlink, and a friend of mine, Ander, he was like, he's like, "Hey, those are strange. We haven't seen that before. What the heck is that? That's UFOs." And I'm like, and I'm looking at it. And of course, you have to look at things with a discerning mind, right? And I noticed that with the phenomena, the real stuff, you feel it differently. You pick up on it differently. It's something you can't put into words, but you just know, right? And when I was looking at Starlink for the first time, I had no idea that there was a launch, that this was happening that night or anything. And I was like, well, wait a minute, they're all traveling in a line. So then my analytical mind clicks in, and I'm like, what about this is foreign, right? And it wasn't foreign. It didn't do anything that I had seen a UFO do, or it just acted so robotic. And with UFOs, they're not that way. There's a life about them, if that makes sense to you. There's almost an unspoken communication going on that you necessarily aren't picking up on, but you can kind of feel.
So you believe that there is some sort of biological component to these UFOs?
Or you're picking up on the biological part of it, right? Like the sentientness of it. Even if it looks like a plasma orb or something like that, you're going to know that it's just different. It's alive somehow.
I get that. I can see that. What about the lights? A lot of people say lights can fool you because most people don't recognize airplane lights.
Well, of course, a lot of planes, when they come in, or they're coming in, like when we were up at Baker in that area, and you'll see the lights come in, because what they'll do is they'll come across the sky, and then they're going to turn on their landing lights. So if you go and observe something from your backyard and it's the same pattern over and over and over again, usually that's something that's coming in, or there's a flight path or something like that. So, but what I'm saying is that when you see something that you haven't seen before, check yourself, because you're going to have the answer inside. You're going to know whether or not that's something different. It's not about just what you see. It's also about what you feel.
Explain that for people, though.
The
feeling part.
The thing that I always like to say is that we are our best instrument, right? When we're out there and we're looking at something that we haven't seen before, we are our best tool it's like we do have a sixth sense that we haven't used in many, thousands of years or whatever, whether or not it's prey looking upon you from a high position or something like that, or when that you're driving down the road and somebody's staring at you. Okay, so it's something like that.
Lee Strauss is here. We call him the extra small one. We go over everything that's gone on the past week right here on the Q&A on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Peace.
All right. We clear? We clear.
Good.
Your mic is really quiet. Like I've got you bumped right up, dude.
Does this help? How about now? Now?
Hold on. If I bring my level down even, speak.
Okay.
You're getting there.
Okay. Am I better?
A little bit.
A little bit better?
Give me more. Give me more. I want more.
How about this? Is this good? Hold on. We'll go into the app here. Let's see. And working on it. Ooh, I don't like that. Let's see here. I wonder if it's picking up my other microphone. Probably.
No idea.
Okay, wait.
No idea. Extra small.
How about this? Does this work better?
You're still you're still a tad low.
Oh, how about that? I'm turning it up.
Beautiful.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know how things get adjusted when what happened. There was an update.
Right.
Yep. That was it.
I got hit by that too. Apparently now I got an echo coming through. Are you hearing an echo?
I am not.
I'm not hearing an echo either.
Yeah, there's lasers that are shooting behind me right now in my space. That's why you're seeing red dots fly over my head.
UFO not. How you doing, buddy?
Dave I haven't heard your echo, Dave.
Extra small.
So,
House.
if we have a quick second, you guys, Jackie Harmon was on last night, and I listened to the podcast today as I did. But there was some things in that whole discussion that were missed, some very important stuff, and a lot of that information, especially the video and the audio that we captured, will be shared at Paracon. There's a lot, like the mimicry that was happening when we were there, and just there was a lot going on.
Save that. I was going to get into with that, with you in this next half hour.
Okay.
All right, Sleepy Lee.
No.
No, in the tent, you were Sleepy Lee.
Mm.
Nicole's like, Dude, you snored through Bigfoot.
We're going to have to get into it.
Oh, God. I can't wait to see you, brother. I hate it that you live so far away, even though it's
I
me
know.
who lives very far away.
Well,
Fap, you are highly unattractive, and your feet have rolls on them. Beelzebrad has a devil put aside for me. Oops to Joe's Maine. You've got aliens and big feets. Give Lubla a little pet for us, a little scratch under the chin if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, Fap has cankles. Oh, boy. Thanks to our mods tonight for all the great work. Thank you to our super chatters. Here we go. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Lee Strauss and the Q&A continues. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, extra small Lee Strauss, always glad to have you here. On our previous show, we had Jackie Harmon on the show telling the incredible story of you and her sleeping in a floating tent and her getting groped by Sasquatch. You listen to that show. I want to hear your opinion on this for our audience.
well, usually when I go out to do these things, these investigations, or, just to gather some evidence or experience something, I'm awake until 2 or 3 in the morning. I don't go to sleep like that. So it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock when I said, I'm done. I can't stay awake. And it was just odd to me, a little bit odd. So getting in the tent and bedding down, and then things start to happen in camp. But of course, there was things going on all day long out there. The mimicry that was going on, the throwing of little pebbles into camp, and like, because I had this metal bin where I stacked all my crates and stuff, and I hook it up to my hitch on my 4Runner. Well, I had it off the truck and leaning up against a tree. Well, they were throwing rocks at it, and it would go ting every time that they would hit it with a rock. And all of that audio has been recorded. I mean, every thing that happened out there was recorded after I started setting up the equipment, which took a couple of hours. But I don't understand why I was so tired that night. It hit me like a freight train, and I could not stay awake. And I was after dinner, and we, looked in the woods after dark for a little bit, but I had to go to bed. I couldn't stay awake, and she was wanting to stay awake. And I'm like, listen, I can't do it. She says, well, I'm not staying out here myself. We're going to, get in the tent or whatever and go to bed. And get in the tent, and then excuse my language, hit the fan right there in camp at that moment in time. And one of the weirdest things is that there was, in the audio, there was so many gaps in time that we did not remember while this happened. And between these gaps of time is when I fell asleep. That includes whatever it was hitting the tent, with hitting the strap on the tent. So when we're talking about this floating tent, it's called a tensile tent. and it's held up by 3 ratchet straps. You guys can look it up to see what this thing looks like, but it's a big triangle shape. And one of the straps was hit in the back, and it jerked the whole tent, and we're like, holy crud, right? And that scared us pretty good. But then again, 10 minutes later, I am out cold. And then all of a sudden I noticed the mattress is being pushed up, like it's got a big old wrinkle in it. I'm like, what in the hell is this thing? Because this is a 3-inch foam mattress. Jackie says it's 1 inch. Well, it's 1 inch once you are laying on it, and compress it down. But I could not understand why I had this big roll in the mattress. What the heck was going on? It felt to me when I was laying on it that the mattress had this big hump in it, and I couldn't figure that out. It's never happened before, and it's never happened since. But for, I don't know, a good 5 minutes, I'm trying to straighten it out, and I'm putting my hip into it, and I'm trying to, push it up with my hands and smack it down with my hip, and she, by the whole time, she's getting grabbed, and she's not telling me that that's what's going on. She is shaking, violently shaking, like scared, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? And she, as I'm trying to get things straightened out, she's hitting me with her elbow, going, shh, stop, and I'm just like, whatever, I don't know what's going on. But finally that hump gets out, and I'm like, okay, good, I did it. I got the hump out of the mattress, and I'm back to sleep like that. And then, all of a sudden she wakes me up again. We got to go. We got to leave. We got to get out of here. And I'm like, well, it's not even, morning yet, guys. What the heck? It's not even morning yet. And she wants me to start packing up and this and that. So I said, okay, fine. I'll start unzipping it. She is like, no, you are not going out there. Well, how are we going to leave? Jackie, how are we going to leave if you won't let me out of the tent? And she's still shaky and by that time. And it was a lot, and I didn't understand what had happened to her. And she didn't tell me till the next day that she was physically grabbed.
What's going through your mind when she's telling you that story?
I was kind of in shock because I was, and then it hit me. Oh my gosh, is that what I felt last night when the mattress lifted up like that and had that big roll in it? And so then I clued into that, and it was like, okay, well, that's pretty freaky, that you were grabbed. But it's not like it made me want to leave. I wanted more. I want to stay there, and I want to experience more. It's not obviously here to hurt us, right? It's more, and I kept telling her that. I says it's interested in us and what we've got going on. It probably wanted us to come out of the tent so that it could watch us. That's what it felt like to me. It wanted to watch us do whatever we were doing around camp with all the equipment that I had out there. It was just interested in us. And not only that, I think because I played Ron Moorhead's Sierra Sounds, it became even more interested in what we were doing out there. And just wanted us to react to it so that it could watch us react.
I didn't know you played the Sierra Sounds up there.
Oh, yeah.
What was the reaction?
Off in the woods, I don't remember exactly what transpired when we played the Sierra Sounds, but we were hearing wood knocks during the day. Around that time, we were hearing low chatter from across the creek on the other side. It was just, there was so much, Dave. It's like we were right in their living room. When we walked down to the creek, there was footprints through the marshy area. You could see all this. I videoed it all. 2 sets, right? So this wasn't just one Sasquatch. This was a family of Sasquatches that were there. And you could hear them just outside camp all the way around. It was intense, but it wasn't scary. It didn't get scary until real scary until Jackie said something the next morning about being grabbed. And then, of course, she shows me later on some bruises on her leg, and I'm like, what in the heck? How is that possible? How is it possible with the tent that I have, it's tensile strength, you know what I mean? So it's pulled and tight between three trees. How did it grab her? But it grabbed her. Physically grabbed her. I felt the mattress go up, and I wasn't cluing into it. I was out of it. I was completely out of it.
Do you think you had like some infrasound or anything that maybe you weren't supposed to experience it, that it was really Jackie's experience to have?
Yeah, I do believe that, but I believe there's two parts, because I feel that I was called to this location, right? This is where we had to go. I don't know why we had to go there. And I would drive around because I wanted to have a better view of the mountain. That was my thing. I knew that we needed to go to that spot, but I also wanted to drive around to see if we could get a better view of the mountain, because I wanted to set up my cameras for viewing the mountain and any UFO activity that would happen around or above the mountain. And so that's what I was trying to do. And every time that we went a different way to try to get to a space or a spot where we could get a better view of the mountain, it kept pushing us right back to that location. We had to go to that spot. There was no other choice. And so that's where we ended up. In that same location, I had, Google Earth 2 years prior, and like, well, this is where we need to go. We need to go here, and that's where we ended up.
Lee Strauss is here for the Q&A. Lee, Jackie got out of the field for around 2 years after this happened. It traumatized her to the point where she didn't know if she would ever go back into the forest. You know her better than anybody. When you saw how much it affected her and the PTSD she was having with that incredibly scary Bigfoot encounter, what goes through your mind regarding that? What do you think you can do to help?
What can I do to help her? I mean, I've been through some pretty traumatic experiences of my own, but I've come away with everything with a different frame of mind. And the amount of time that I spent with Jackie after the trip, on the phone and just talking with her day to day. I mean, we talked about it, and we talked about it, and we talked about it, endless. And, reviewed the video and audio and all of this stuff, but it still obviously affected her, and I think it's still, even though she likes to say, no, I'm not affected. And yeah, I'd have no problem going back out there as long as we're in a vehicle and not, in a tent. I think it will affect her. I think when we go up to Flight 21, I think it'll reemerge for her. And I don't know how long she'll be able to take it out there, being even inside the Forerunner.
It is a bumpy road.
Yeah, that Forerunner flies over the bumps like it's nothing. It's like a Cadillac. But as much as she likes to talk tough, I still think that she's affected. I mean, she was shaking violently. She was having a panic attack. She peed herself in that tent.
How could you not?
Yeah, well, even it was very terrifying for her. I did not experience what she experienced, but the things that I did experience, I mean, it was right here, right? It was right next to me, reaching its arm underneath the darn tent. And I think about that, and I'm like, well, wasn't trying to hurt us. And that's what goes through my head. But to her, it was a much different experience entirely.
I mean, think she'll be able to handle Flight 21?
I think when people are there, yeah, no problem. It's when we stay the night out there that I think there'll be issues.
I really do not recommend you guys doing that.
Well,
I know you're silly like that, but I really don't recommend it.
I have been through some stuff and have come out on the other side, and even I'm concerned about it, Dave. Knowing what I know and how you've experienced things out there, and what has gone on out there, and yeah, I'm concerned, but I'm not overly terrified. As long as I got my air horn with me, I'll be good.
Yeah, the problem is where you're located, nobody's going to hear you.
Well, that's not for me or for us or for anybody else. That's to scare whatever it is away, which apparently doesn't work, as I found out.
My goodness. My goodness. Well, what do you think of Tom DeLonge getting back at Comic-Con saying that he's still advising the U.S. government on UFOs?
It's just ridiculous. Come on. It's because he wants to be in the spotlight, and as we go through these things, he's an artist, right? And I think he just wants to be in the limelight. He wants to be part of it, of what's going on. Just like Stephen Greer wants to be part of what's going on, and so many other people, and that's how they operate. Once you have that fame, you want to continue, right? It feels good for people to admire you. So they just want more.
Here's the one thing. Okay, I think Tom DeLonge knows a lot of information. Yes, the same Tom DeLonge from the band Blink-182. I do think he knows a lot of information and has been told things. Okay, but his lack of relevancy in the UFO world, since he blew his opportunity with the To the Stars Academy, has been extremely minimal over the last number of years. And look, I have no problem with him having an interest. I wish he would come out and say whether or not he's an experiencer. I think that would be, something a lot more trustworthy than what he's doing now. But when you sit there and you listen to him and that, he's advising the government on what to do, what the hell does he know compared to you and I or anybody else out there who's seen weird, strange things? Now, grantedly, there are people out there who are way more smarter than you and I in this topic. That's no offense to you or no offense to me. There are smarter people than us. Maybe not better looking, but smarter, to say the least. Right? And I really believe, though, that I cannot see the United States government, the biggest spy agency in the world, the biggest space agency in the world, the biggest military in the world, calling up a rock star to say, hey, can you help us here? Can you tell us what's going on with these UAPs? I can't see that happening, Lee.
Well, because he has interest in it. It's like Dr. Phil, right? I mean, he's getting into it. So I feel that a lot of us were kind of born into this thing, like have always had an interest in it, right? And there are some that are just cluing into it right now. And the fact that Dr. Phil tells us that more and more people are becoming aware of, the phenomena, not to the degree that somebody has been researching the phenomena for years and years and years, but they're becoming aware of it. And I just feel that because the subject is so hot right now, everybody wants to jump into the middle of it and get their 2 minutes of fame, or whatever it is that they're going to get a book deal or whatever. They want to be on the inside and get the inside scoop. I don't blame them for that. I really don't. It would be fascinating to know, not just believe we know, but know what the government knows, right? Know what Dick Cheney knew, right? That would be amazing. But that's not going to happen. It's just not. So that's why people are interested in what Tom DeLonge may say, because he's heard, things talked in back rooms, talked about in back rooms, and in different conversations. So,
Well, here's the other thing too, Lee. When DeLong was saying, "Look, this is something. It's just starting. It's just starting." He was correct. We talked about it last week. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, if you want to trust the government on this one, you're in for a marathon, not a split. It's the job of people like Lee and myself to break that all down for you. People like Grant Cameron or Nicole Sackage or Courtney Marcassani or many, many others who've been on this show, and many others who haven't that we're going to try and get on. They are working the real angles of this. They're trying to get to the bottom of it's not only about UFOs, but the shell games that are being played in between. And the people who are seeking relevancy and popularity for the sake of the people who have an investment in this subject. That's what it comes down to. And they know that we're so low on the totem pole that we're more interested in bickering about what other YouTube channels are saying than we are about actually diving deeper into research. That's a problem. It allows them to get away. We got about 20 seconds.
It is, but that's okay. Let's take everything with a grain of salt and then try to learn as much as we can, and whatever fits in your paradigm, let it fit. And everything else, let's just throw it to the side and discard it.
See, that's why you're magical, Lee. Right there. That is why you're magical. That is why you have wings, and that is why you can fly.
You give me wings, brother.
You and Red Bull, buddy. Small and Strauss, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. We always appreciate having your heavy insights into what is going on in the UFO encrypted world. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw. Rocket in the background with Little Brother is watching. Thank you to Bumblefoot, who rocks us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook Stream, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X. Hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. job, extra. Oh.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. Jay Truth Seeker. Yes, that is the plan. That is the plan.
What's the plan?
Oh, Jackie and I camp out at Flight 21 in the Forerunner.
I really. Okay. If you're camping in the Forerunner, but remember, you can't speed out of it.
Oh, I know.
Okay, we got to plan this out. Give me a minute. We got to plan this.
I'm giving Dave a couple minutes to get his stuff taken care of.
Okay, let's talk about this shit here for a second. Let's talk about this. I think what we need to do, okay, when we park, when you guys park up there, okay, I can get a trailer up there, almost up there for you. I got a buddy of mine who'll lend me his trailer. You want to sleep in a trailer? I'll even stay up there with you in a trailer.
You can stay in the trailer.
Okay, so let's figure this out because Brad Bunt is going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there. Merle, I think, is coming up Wednesday or Thursday. Grant is coming up. Grant Cameron's coming up Thursday. Who else is coming early? You're coming early?
Yeah, we'll be there Wednesday.
Ooh, I don't like that. My hat is sideways. Thank you, Lex, for pointing that unfathomable look that I had going on there. Terrible. Here's what we do. We'll be at the trailer. We probably should still be able to get walkie-talkie distance.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I'll bring my walkie-talkies. Okay. We'll stay in the trailer. That way, there's an emergency. In case there's an emergency, we're right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll surround your vehicle with trail cameras and go.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, is that I would put a couple trail cameras on the outside of the rig.
And GoPros.
GoPros are going to die every hour.
Hours. Yeah, they don't have a lot of life.
You can put them on an external battery and they'll last longer, but I want to be... The problem is with the GoPro is that you have to have a lot of illumination at night to capture anything with them because they have the sensor that they use.
Well, we have our lights set. If I can get my generator before that.
We don't want lights. That's
true.
We don't want a bunch of lighting there. We want to act. We just want to act normal, like we're out there camping. Basically, right? So,
well, if we put 4 trail cameras, one on each corner of your vehicle, are you planning on parking in the circle, or are you planning on being on the path leading out?
I think we would be in the circle, right where we were last time, where we had the campfire and all. Just pull right in there and just act like we're camping, right? Maybe do some things, but I don't want to set it up like we're doing an investigation. I will put out some audio recorders and stuff like that, but I think the majority of the stuff I'll put will be attached to the rig.
Yeah.
Just in case we do have to pull out of there, that everything that I have is attached to the top of the rig or whatever. And then,
I don't think you need to worry about trail cams going missing. They might just turn them off again. What
They're
was it?
they're known for they're known for doing that.
Did they really? Jackie, I'd never heard Jackie say that she could hear them unclipping the.
You can hear in the audio this click, click. And the only thing that we've been able to come up with is they turned the dang camera off. We had 4 or 5 cameras. I think we had 5 set up that night. Pointed towards the 2 pointed towards the tent, and the rest were pointing away down pathways and whatnot.
Right.
But you could actually hear one of the ones that was pointed towards the tent click, like they were opening the clasps on the side. And they are the same ones that you have, by the way, that I gave you.
Right.
So you hear that clip when you unclip it to mess with the insides.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It never felt harmful. Does that make sense? You never felt like you were in danger. Jackie did once she got grabbed. But even when we were getting messed with them right there, in camp and right next to me in the tent, I just, and they hit the strap, that was kind of jarring, but it wasn't like our life was threatened, right? When they threw the log into the camp, it's not like our lives were being threatened. They wanted to see what our reaction would be. That's what they were looking for. They were as much as interested in us as we were in them.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that totally.
And I've been back there, the last time I was back there was this year, and what I heard I didn't have any experiences except for this. I went down to set a trail camera, and I heard some chatter across the creek on the other side. And of course it was like, yeah, okay, so you guys are here, but they didn't come into camp that whole time. And when I had got there, you could see the like gun shells. I think I told you about this. Like somebody was there in that campsite and they were shooting their guns off.
Right.
And that, I'm sure, scared the crap out of them. And so they're not going to approach people now for probably forever. I don't know. But somebody was obviously scared and shooting 2 different types. One was a 9mm and the other looked like a 40 from the shell, like a S&W Smith & Wesson round. So
that works for me. That works for me. I've never fired a handgun.
No, but I did on that trip, I did find another location that was maybe a half a mile away on the other side of the creek where I want to take Jackie. In fact, I want to do more than that. I want to set up an event next year towards the end of June in that location and bring a bunch of people in just to camp. Yes, to go out, maybe little day trips out into the brush to see if we can find anything, but it's more of a relaxed atmosphere, not really like an investigation type thing.
Am I allowed to come?
You would be.
Would I want to go?
Yeah, you would.
Where am I sleeping?
Absolutely. Well, that's up to you, brother. February, March, April.
How far down the mountain's the closest hotel?
Oh my God, dude. Randall or Trout Lake. 5-1.
Blue Cruise, the SD cards have not disappeared.
This would be, let's say, like June 19th. So probably June 16th through the 20th, leaving on Monday the 21st of 2027.
And where are we going?
This would be Mount Adams, Gifford Pinchot National Forest. This is the location where the majority of the sightings of Sasquatch are seen.
You know who we got to get
in
up there?
America.
You know who we got to get up there?
Who's that?
Jessica Jones.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to set that in my calendar, and there's quite a few people here too. You couldn't get an RV into that. I mean, it's a big enough once you pull in there, but it's getting the radius to turn in. You wouldn't be able to get an RV. You'd be able to get a camper in there, but not an RV.
I just hate tents, dude. I hate tents. I shouldn't say that. That's wrong. I like tents. I hate the fact that every time I buy a fucking air mattress, it pops. Gone on for years. Why stop camping? All because of the air mattress saga I'm in.
Yeah. Well, I just got a message from Thomas Seward. Wants me to call him tomorrow.
Thomas listening in?
He just sent me a message. Yeah, through Facebook. So something's going on.
I like Thomas.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He really is. Solid individual. But yeah, brother, I'm already starting to gather my stuff and get things ready to go. I've got a couple.
Are you packed yet? Are you packed yet?
That's what Jackie asks. No, I'm not packed. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. I've got a substantial amount of equipment.
I know you do.
And that's been one of my biggest issues this whole time with doing this stuff is I'm just one guy really. I can't operate all this equipment.
Just one guy, Lee. Just one guy.
I need helpers.
Just one guy, man. You're just one guy. Let it go, man.
I'm just one little guy. One little extra small guy.
Let it go, man.
At 5'9". Anyway.
I'm so tired.
I get you. I get you,
not
brother.
Doing well lately.
Well, I like seeing Grant Cameron on here. That was cool.
Grant fucking Cameron, man.
Yep.
I'm totally going to introduce him at CaribouCon as Grant fucking Cameron.
Abso-frickin-lutely. Yeah, air mattresses suck.
Air mattresses totally suck.
Uh-huh.
Nobody likes them. Nobody likes them.
They get really bad when you get the cooking oil on them. They get really slippery. This is just no good. No good at all.
The hell are you trying to do?
Just messing with you, brother. Just messing with you.
What the hell are you trying to do? Trying to create some of that weird porno stuff here. Hold on, I gotta edit out a swear word here.
Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight.
Let's go.
As a kid growing up, we would always go to my uncle's cabin in the mountains that we also hunted at. There's a long driveway leading up to the cabin and a big parking area with a spotlight looking down on it. It was in late November, and the night before the first day of whitetail buck season, so we had our regular get-together at the cabin. There was a lot of drinking going on, so I kind of distanced myself from all of it and went outside to take a smoke break. As I walked outside, I will never forget the sound I heard. It was a mix between an animal in distress and almost a creepy laugh. I'm easily scared and quickly went back inside. After a while, the others went to sleep, and it was just me still awake. I suffer from insomnia, and my mind races all night. I was thinking about something random when all of a sudden I heard the same noise I had heard before and was very disturbed. I eventually fell asleep and woke up the next morning ready to go hunting. We got done and I had forgotten all about it. So night comes, and once again the older people I was with were slamming beers, so I just played on my phone. One of the guys eventually went out for a smoke break and didn't come back for a while, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, so my dad told me to go check on him. As I walked outside, I saw him standing next to my dad's car and yelled, "Hey, we were wondering where you went off to." Then I nearly shit a brick. As I heard a voice behind me say, "We were wondering where you went off to." As I heard a voice behind me say,
"Oh, I'm sorry.
Beautiful edit.
I was looking for my..."
Beautiful edit right there, Lee. That's a pro's pro edit right there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I laughed when I heard that. I was like, oh yeah, that's great.
Nearly shit a brick.
But I forget that you record this. It's not like it's live on the radio at the moment, so.
Well, we are what we call live to tape.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna get out of here.
All right, extra small. To you. To our audience. And I'm gonna get out of here too. I gotta finish this editing. I'm like falling asleep here. Who's on the show next week? Let me find out. One second here. Save. Next week, who do we have? Next week, we have Jeff Harmon, Lynn Monet, and Michael Ryan. Then I'm off Thursday and Friday, and we'll be back on the Monday with Lon Strickler. That's what we got. Jeff Harmon, Lynn Monet, Michael Ryan. That's a good lineup for a shortened week. And I'm taking a couple nights off because I'm going to Vancouver. I'm going to go get my Paradise City on. Nobody can stop me from that. Nobody, damn it. Lee, you're the best.
We'll talk later, my friend.
Hey, buddy. And there disappears Lee. No point wearing a hat now. Thank you to Von Patrick ×2, Lil Cam, and David for the super chats. We greatly appreciate it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, ring that bell. And love you all. You guys all have a great, great night. And I will talk to you on Monday. See you later, everybody. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Bye. Bye.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.